Chapter 2054. It was still alright if he didn't mention it. The minute it was mentioned, Ghost Doctor wanted to explode again. Not what I thought. Then what is it? Don't you know your own body best? Allowing that overlord to do anything to you, don't you know how to reject? Ghost Doctor was fuming as he grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist, checking her pulse. Why did I waste so much time on you? Is this how you repay me? Since you don't care about your own body, then what am I still doing here? I might as well return to my pill refining room, to refine my pills. He was obviously scolding her. But his actions, obviously showed that he was still feeling heartache for Yiqing Luo. His mouth was sharp but his heart was soft. Yiqing Luo heard Ghost Doctor's accusation, but didn't rebuke him. Instead she looked at Ghost Doctor with a light smile. When Ghost Doctor's gaze looked over, Yiqing Luo's pair of charming eyes would blink, showing an extreme grievance. Ghost Doctor watched and watched. In the end he was defeated by Yiqing Luo's big move. He released Yiqing Luo's wrist and sighed, "Lass, your innate talent is very strong and your body is born with a profound jade heart which makes others envious. But you must remember one thing, your body is after all a mortal's body. Your current body, especially the damaged profound jade heart, is totally unable to take on any energy which exceeds your body's capacity. Do you know, if it wasn't for that overlord that fellow's exhaustion this time?" Cough cough cough. Diamo Xian, who had been standing in the corner with a gloomy face, suddenly coughed violently. That dry and loud cough interrupted Ghost Doctor's words. Ghost Doctor stared at Diamo Xian unhappily. Seeing Diamo Xian touching his throat as he kept on coughing, he seemed to have understood something. Turning his head back, he looked at Yiqing Luo and changed the topic. "Anyway, lass, if there's a next time, even if it's the great Luo deity, he won't be able to save you." Yiqing Luo listened to Ghost Doctor's words seriously. Naturally she didn't miss out on the two words, overlord, that he intentionally mentioned earlier. Diamo Xian's cough was so dry, so obvious. Who didn't know that he intentionally wanted to interrupt Ghost Doctor's words? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. "Ghost Doctor Master, say this time round, if it's not because of Xian, then what? What is it that you haven't finished saying? Did Xian, for me?" The Ghost Doctor averted her gaze and coughed unnaturally. "Lil Luo, don't listen to that old man's nonsense. Look at me, what can happen to me?" Diamo Xian stopped coughing and walked over to the bedside. He opened his hands and looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. The man's purple robe fluttered. It glistened with flowing light, as if it was plated with a layer of purple luster, and it was exquisite and noble. Yiqing Luo looked at Diamo Xian, who was smiling calmly. Her expression grew increasingly unsightly. Lifting her charming eyes, she stared at Diamo Xian coldly without blinking, and said word by word, "You shut up." Diamo Xian's smile froze as his thin lips moved, but when he met with Yiqing Luo's serious expression, he still stopped his voice. "Master Ghost Doctor, please speak." Yiqing Luo slowly shifted her gaze towards Ghost Doctor. She was very clear that if Diamo Xian were to say it, there was a possibility that he would bluff her away. The Master Ghost Doctor never lied. And he disdained to lie. Ghost Doctor took a look at Diamo Xian before he opened his mouth. "I've already said this the last time, that battle with King of Darkness had seriously damaged your control over your profound heart jade. If you're not careful, you will suffer the backlash from the profound heart jade." Chapter 2055. Although the pendant that Di Zun gave you can temporarily suppress the power of your profound jade heart, you forcefully used up the power of the divine tool twice this time. The Ghost Doctor's expression was extremely grave. Once again you allowed the divine phoenix profound heart jade to control your body. Although this kind of domination was due to the divine phoenix profound heart jade's protective consciousness. However, Yiqing Luo's mortal body simply could not withstand the power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Ghost Doctor's gaze shifted onto Diamo Xian once again. "If it wasn't for Di Zun expending 30% of his profound strength to help you suppress the backlash from the profound jade heart, you wouldn't have been able to hold on until now." Yiqing Luo drew in a breath of cold air as her expression froze. "Lil Luo, Diamo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's pale face as he looked at her with heartache. "I'm fine. It's just 30% profound energy, it's not enough to affect my body. I just need to rest for a few days and I'll be able to fully recover." Yiqing Luo shook her head. She pursed her pink lips tightly as she raised her eyes and stared fixedly at Diamo Xian. Her little face was pale and her breathing was a little hurried. The Ghost Doctor and Gui Wu, who had yet to speak, could only stand up and quietly leave the room, leaving the space for the two youngsters. I'll go take a look at Xiaoyi. You follow Ziqing and find a room to stay in first. It looks like you won't be able to bring her with you in such a short time. The ghost doctor dragged Gui Wu towards the door. Gui Wu was helpless and could only do so. In the room, only Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo were left. Dmo Xian walked over and both his knees were placed on the side of the bed as he lowered his eyes to look at her. Lil Luo, don't look at me like that. I'm really fine. You can take my pulse and use your method to check on my body. His hand stretched out in front of her. The man's wrist was extremely sexy. It was as if his warmth could be transmitted from his wrist. Yiqing Luo fixed her gaze on the wrist in front of her. His breath sprayed on the top of her head. Yiqing Luo's eyes reddened inexplicably. My skills are too shallow. If you don't want me to tell, even if I take your pulse, I won't be able to tell anything. This lass, she really understood his personality. Dmo Xian helplessly curled his thin lips as he placed his hand on her head. Then he moved closer to the bed and sat down. The girl was still angry. She snorted and turned her head away. But that didn't stop him from getting closer. Or rather, she didn't have the strength to stop him. Lil Luo, if I didn't expend my profound energy to help you suppress the profound heart jade, the person in trouble right now would be you. Moreover, the price you will pay is very likely to be your life. As for me, I've only used up a small portion of my profound energy and it doesn't affect my body at all. I only know that if I lose you, if I don't have you by my side in the future, that would be the most unbearable thing for me. It would be more painful than death. A teardrop fell on the bedding. She lowered her head, unable to stop her tears from flowing. The man panicked even more. Flustered, he helped her wipe the tears off her face. His voice became gentler and gentler as he coaxed her. The more he coaxed her, the more her tears flowed. I'm not blaming you. I'm angry at myself. The young girl choked with sobs as her voice was soft. She held Dmo Xian's palm tightly. His scorching and wide palms made her feel as if she was being cherished in his palms. Her heart was beating wildly. The gentler Dmo Xian was, the more guilty she felt. Chapter 2056. If it weren't for her stubbornness. Dmo Xian would also not exhaust his own profound energy and help her suppress the agitation of her profound heart jade. You still have matters to settle in the Imperial Palace. Your existence represents the power of the Imperial Palace. There are too many people in the dark who want to take you down. If those people know that you have lost 30% of your profound strength, they will definitely take the opportunity to lay their hands on you. Saying that, Yiqing Luo's voice was slightly trembling. She stretched out her hand and grabbed hold of Dmo Xian's sleeve as she raised her head. Her reddened eyes were sparkling with tears. Xian, before you recover your profound energy, don't leave the old mansion. The old mansion was overseen by Ghost Doctor, Ghost Warrior and Ghost Yu. There was also Zhou Mo, whose background was unknown. Moreover, the Brothers of World Connect were all here. This was the safest place. Even if there were people with ulterior motives who wanted to take the opportunity to find trouble with Dmo Xian, they could also take care of each other. Dmo Xian's finger gently brushed past the corner of her eye as he spoke tenderly. Silly Luo, you still don't believe in my ability? Even if I lose 30% of my profound strength, no one in the Nirvana realm can harm me in the slightest. But I'm scared. Yiqing Luo didn't know where the strength came from, but she stretched out her hand and hugged Dmo Xian's waist. Xian, I'm sorry. I'm too capricious. I've become too dependent on you under your unconditional pampering. It was precisely because he knew that no matter what kind of danger she was in, he would never let her go. Dmo Xian would always be by her side. He wanted to clear away all of her worries. I'm your man, isn't it a matter of course for you to rely on me? Dmo Xian caressed her hair. But if I rely on you too much, I'll easily lose myself. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her reddened eyes were extremely bright. She stared at Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes. Xian, I've said it before, I want to be on par with you. I want to become a woman who is qualified enough to stand by your side. It's impossible for you to coincidentally appear by my side all the time. If I'm too used to relying on you, what should I do if you're not around? Little Luo, Dmo Xian's thin lips moved. He wanted to say that no matter what, he would always be by her side. But on second thought he remembered his own identity. He had already decided that Lil Luo heir was his future. In the future Lil Luo would have to accept everything from him. If Lil Luo could only rely on him to live, their future would become extremely difficult. Xian. Yiqing Luo suddenly left his embrace as she raised her head and looked at him seriously. Her pair of charming eyes were bright and full of determination. When I reach the mystic rank, will I be able to transform my body and leave my mortal body? Cultivation was a way to transform the human body. It was just like when she used the marrow cleansing pill to reconstruct her meridians. After cultivating, his body, which had been tortured for the past 15 years, was completely healed and became extremely sturdy. Moreover, after cultivating to the sky profound realm, one would be able to slow down their aging process and even retain their youth forever. It could be seen that the profound rank could affect a person's body. Otherwise, in the future, when her profound rank once again broke through to the sky profound realm, wouldn't her body still be unable to withstand the burden of the sky profound realm and above? Dmo Xian's eyes met with hers. His shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to contain a pool of spring water. Sky profound is the lower realm's highest profound rank. Dmo Xian slowly explained, have you noticed that when the cultivators release their profound qi, there will be a difference in color, which is their profound rank? Star. Chapter 2057. Yiqing Luo nodded, I've noticed it. Her profound heart jade could detect the profound heart jade of a profound practitioner with a higher profound rank than her. She could also see through the other party's profound rank with a single glance. She distinguished those profound grades based on their color and the star patterns beneath their feet. For example, the yellow color of Huang Xian was a mysterious red. The earthy color of the earth Xian. The blue of the profound sky continent. Every time these profound ranks went up a rank, a 5-pointed star would appear beneath their feet. After entering the 5th grade of the sky profound realm, the color of your profound energy will disappear, and you will enter the colorless realm. No matter who it is, they will not be able to distinguish your level. Dmo Xian nodded his head and continued to explain, after the sky profound realm is the legend realm. Legend? Yiqing Luo mumbled these 2 words as her heart tightened. That's right, it's a myth. Dmo Xian's voice was rather gloomy. After sky profound, it's virtuous profound, spirit profound, revered profound. Only 3 profound grades? Yiqing Luo was puzzled. After reaching the sage Xian realm, it will automatically be divided into 15 grades, and each grade is divided into 3 levels. The early stage of the 1st grade, the middle stage of the 1st grade, and the peak of the 1st grade. The difference in strength between each stage is equivalent to the difference between the earth profound realm and the sky profound realm. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened. 15 ranks? Every grade is divided into 3 levels? The difference in strength between each level was equivalent to ascending from an earth Xian to a sky Xian? Oh my god. It was too terrifying. Was this the Almighty's world? When you reach the sage plane, you will attract the heavenly law lightning tribulation. Once you pass through the lightning tribulation, your body will be reconstructed and you will completely break away from your mortal body. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on Yiqing Luo's hand. Lil Luo, based on your innate talent, it's not difficult for you to reach the level of sage profound. If you want to grow, I will not stop you. He paused for a moment as he held Yiqing Luo's hand and placed it by his lips as he kissed it. You only need to remember one thing, no matter how tough the road ahead is, I will always be here. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curved upwards as she revealed a smile. I will definitely become stronger. The ghost doctor went to Yan Xiaoyi's room. After taking Yan Xiaoyi's pulse, Xiao Jin handed over the antidote that Dao Yegan had handed over to the ghost doctor. The ghost doctor took a whiff. I need some time to confirm it. For now, let's follow the prescription from before and boil the medicine for her to stabilize the poison in her body. Xiao Jin nodded solemnly. Thank you, Lord Ghost Doctor. The ghost doctor gave him a few reminders. Then she took the antidote and went to the medicine-making room that God Pirate had specially built. Xiao Jin took the prescription and brewed the medicine with extreme precision. After brewing the medicine, Xiao Jin carried the medicinal soup and walked to the bedside. When Yan Xiaoyi saw Xiao Jin approaching, her face revealed a joyful expression. But when she saw the medicinal soup in Xiao Jin's hands, her entire face turned bitter. He couldn't help but complain. The medicinal soup that the ghost doctor made wasn't just ordinarily disgusting, it wasn't just ordinarily bitter. Previously at the general hospital, she was forced to eat 2 bowls a day. It was even more disgusting than eating shit. Yan Xiaoyi covered her head and hid under the blanket. She said, I won't drink it even if you beat me to death. Xiao Jin also knew that the taste of this medicinal soup was really hard to swallow. But for the sake of Yan Xiaoyi's body, Yan Xiaoyi must finish this bowl of medicine. Especially in the afternoon when he heard from Dao Yegan that the poison in Yen Xiaoyi's body would cause Yen Xiaoyi to become weaker and weaker, and finally turn into a puddle of corpse water. His heart couldn't help but twitch faintly in pain. Xiaoyi, be good, finish this bowl of medicine first. After you finish, you can do whatever you want. Xiao Jin coaxed her in a warm voice. Not drinking. Yen Xiaoyi covered herself under the blanket as she shook her head furiously. Making me drink it every day, my entire body is bitter now. Star. Chapter 2058. Xiao Jin placed the medicine aside. His eyes were filled with helplessness as he looked at Yen Xiaoyi, who was covered in the blanket, looking like a child. He seemed to have understood. Why was Qing Luo so unbridled in front of them? But in front of an overlord, she would show off her womanly demeanor. Was it because a woman would reveal her true nature in front of the man she loved? Yen Xiaoyi was the same. Which meant that he, Xiao Jin, was the man whom Yen Xiaoyi had acknowledged, the man she loved. This knowledge made the smile on Xiao Jin's face deepen by several notches. What are you smiling at? Yen Xiaoyi lifted a corner of the blanket as she secretly peeked at Xiao Jin. She discovered that Xiao Jin was staring at her with a rippling smile. Yen Xiaoyi only felt that Xiao Jin was mocking her for being afraid of the bitter taste. Immediately, her cheeks flushed red as she popped out her little head and stared at him. Slut Jin. You're not allowed to smile. Xiao Jin's smile became even more joyful. That unprepossessing face made that pair of obsidian eyes shine brightly. Even if he wasn't handsome. But this smile made Yen Xiaoyi's cheeks turn even redder. This was no longer the redness of embarrassment, but the redness of shyness. Yen Xiaoyi thought that this was probably the ancient saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In her eyes. No matter what expression Xiao Jin had, what action, what look. His words could make her heart beat faster. She actually loved Xiao Jin so much? Xiaoyi, I have a way to reduce the bitter taste, do you want to try? Xiao Jin's eyes were burning as he stared at Yen Xiaoyi's red face. Yen Xiaoyi pouted as she snorted, candied fruit? I've already used this method and it can't cover up the bitter taste. Xiao Jin's thin lips curled upwards as he smiled like a sly fox. When have I ever lied to you? Be good, drink the medicine and I'll tell you, all right? His voice was very gentle. His coaxing tone made Yen Xiaoyi's heart warm up. Yen Xiaoyi pursed her lips. She knew clearly that she had to drink this medicine. If they continued on like this, when the medicine turned cold, it would probably be even more bitter. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and drink the entire bowl of medicinal soup. The bitter taste filled her entire mouth. A nauseous feeling surged in his chest. Yen Xiaoyi's pale face instantly turned into an emaciated look. Her brows were tightly knitted together, and her facial features were twisted into a ball due to the bitterness in her heart. Slut Jin. I'm warning you, if your method doesn't work, I'll definitely. Yen Xiaoyi was irritated by the bitter taste. Before he could finish, her body, along with the bedding, was suddenly lifted up. She had already fallen into Xiao Jin's embrace. Before he could react, Yen Xiaoyi's jaw is pinched by the wrapping fingers. A kiss landed on her lips. There were still a few drops of medicine on her lips. Yen Xiaoyi reacted and wanted to struggle. However, Xiao Jin's hand suddenly pressed on the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Yen Xiaoyi's breathing became unstable. The taste of the man invaded her mouth. A numbing sensation caused an obscure electric current to run through his body. He kissed her hard. Her body went limp and she lost all her strength. After an unknown period of time. Until Yen Xiaoyi had forgotten how to breathe. Only then did Xiao Jin release her swollen lips. He lowered his eyes and looked at the blushing, seductive woman in his arms. He licked his thin lips and said with a smile, "Is the bitterness gone?" Yen Xiaoyi's face turned even redder. Her small hands were placed on his burning hot chest, and the corners of her eyes were stained with a thin mist. She was so embarrassed that she couldn't even speak. Star. Chapter 2059. What happened to being a blockhead? Why did he transform into a wolf after confirming their relationship? Isn't this method good? Don't tell me, it's still bitter? Seeing Yen Xiaoyi's flushed face and ears, Xiao Jin had the thought of teasing her and asked with a low laugh. Yen Xiaoyi gripped his collar tightly and gritted her teeth. Slut Jin. Xiao Jin's slender fingers pressed against her red and swollen lips. Call me a Jin. A Jin. Yen Xiaoyi's face turned even redder. She lowered her eyes and avoided his burning hot fingers. No. Just because you want me to do it? Then wouldn't I lose face? Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's tone was gentle and carried a hint of coquettishness. Yin Xiaoyi shuddered. Forgive her, she really couldn't control Xiao Jin, who acted like a spoiled child. Why does it look a little painful to the eyes? Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin called out again. His wide and thick palm followed Yin Xiaoyi's waist and gently moved. Yin Xiaoyi trembled even more violently. This blockhead, just where did he learn such a weird move? Tell me why first. Xiao Jin's eyes were tinged with a smile. Do you still remember? The Heavenly Academy specially set up a strength test to prevent us from participating in the interclass competition. Yin Xiaoyi nodded. That illusion. Xiao Jin moved closer to her ear, his voice low and hoarse. He told Yin Xiaoyi about the test of strength and everything that he had experienced in the illusion realm in a concise and yet extremely alluring manner. The more she listened, the redder Yin Xiaoyi's face became. In the middle, Yin Xiaoyi covered her ears and hammered Xiao Jin's chest, scolding Xiao Jin for being a pervert. As he cursed, he still couldn't stop Xiao Jin's words. After Xiao Jin finished speaking, he added with a face full of regret, I wonder when the illusion will become real. Slut. Yin Xiaoyi shrunk back and wanted to bury her head in the blanket again. Who was this big pervert? She didn't know him. Her Xiao Jin was clearly a blockhead. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin reacted quickly and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and pressed his forehead against hers. His voice was extremely gentle. It's okay. I won't force you. This title belongs only to you. You can call me that whenever you want. Forehead to forehead. Their eyes met. The man's warm breath sprayed on her skin. Her body temperature continued to rise. She bit her lip and called out softly, Ah Jin? Xiao Jin's eyes curved into crescents as he tightened his grip. Yin Xiaoyi straightened her back, her beautiful eyes staring at Xiao Jin for a while. She lowered her head and kissed his lips. I still feel bitter. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Yiqing Luo's body had fully recovered. She didn't suffer any serious injuries. It was just that the dark force in his body was overly exhausted. These 3 days under Dmo Xian's rearing like rearing pigs. Not only did Yiqing Luo's body recover, she had also gained a few kilograms. Looking at the extra flesh on her waist, Yiqing Luo had a look of despair. Dmo Xian shot a glance at Yiqing Luo's non-existent little Ruru. Where's the meat? It's still too flat. If you want meat, I'll stuff a piece into your stomach, how about that? How could Yiqing Luo not understand the meaning behind Dmo Xian's words? She glared at him. Don't even think about it. Dmo Xian, I'm warning you, if you dare to do that, I'll strangle you to death. Looking at the young lady's serious look, Dmo Xian rubbed her head. Then be good and finish this bowl of medicinal soup. This is the new trick you used to force me to drink these nourishing tonics in the name of nourishing my body, but in actual fact it's to force me to put on weight? Yiqing Luo's eyes opened wide. Dmo Xian nodded with a smile. And I, star. Chapter 2060. She admitted defeat. Drink. Yiqing Luo had a look of facing death calmly as she raised her head and drank the greasy tonic into her mouth. She didn't even have the thought of tasting it as she directly swallowed it. This thing, she drank it once or twice. It was delicious. But for 3 consecutive days she drank 3 bowls a day. No matter who it was, they would be sick of it. But that treacherous scoundrel man always had 100 ways to force her to drink those tonics. Dmo Xian's eyes were calm as his peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint warm smile. Looking at the young lady who braced herself to face death calmly, he smiled helplessly as he doted on her. It looked like this young lass was still very resistant towards pregnancy. But it was true. This young lass was only 15 years old. She still had her own ambitions and future to pursue. It was indeed too early to talk about children. After drinking the tonic, Yiqing Luo generously placed the bowl in Dmo Xian's hands. It's settled. Now, I'm going out to have fun. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's face, which had regained its color as his charming eyes became radiant. He didn't stop her like yesterday as he nodded slightly. Emin, but you have to promise me not to be willful again. You're not coming with me? Yiqing Luo frowned. She had finally managed to stick together with Dmo Xian for the past few days and he was leaving again? I know you have a lot of small matters to settle, and these matters, you have enough ability to settle them. Dmo Xian pinched her face. The 30% profound energy which was depleted for you has already recovered. You don't need to worry about me. Mentioning that 30% profound energy, Yiqing Luo instantly felt guilty. She lowered her eyes as she pursed her lips. I'm sorry. If it wasn't for her willfulness, Dmo Xian wouldn't have depleted 30% profound energy. If it wasn't for her persuasion, Dmo Xian might have already reorganized the Imperial Palace when he returned. Here we go again. Dmo Xian raised his finger and tapped her forehead lightly. The Imperial Palace isn't as important as you. Even if I didn't deplete 30% profound energy, even if you didn't ask me to stay, I would choose to stay by your side and take care of you personally during these 3 days when you were immobile. This man. He was really able to accurately guess what she was thinking at every single moment. Silly Luo heir, don't let your imagination run wild. Dmo Xian rubbed her head. I promised you I will give you what you want to grow. These few days perform well for me, I'll be right back. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met with that pair of tender peach blossom eyes. The thick scent of his hormones filled her nostrils. Resolute and cold. Made her feel good. The contours of his face were extremely gentle. His eyes were filled with a smile and his thin lips were slightly raised. Charming and seductive. Whenever she looked at him, Yiqing Luo had a feeling that her heart was gripped tightly, as though she had lost her soul in an instant. She suppressed the restlessness in her heart as her cheeks blushed. Lowering her eyes, she obediently responded, N. The young girl's charming appearance made the smile on his lips deepen. Satisfied, he wrapped his arms around the girl's delicate body, bent down and kissed her pink lips. Their lips touched, carrying a strong masculine scent. Yiqing Luo had yet to react. A cool breeze brushed past his cheeks. In front of him there was no longer a man's figure. All that was left was his unique sandalwood scent as it diffused in the room. Yiqing Luo froze on the spot, as her slender fingers caressed her pink lips. The corners of her lips still had remnants of his warmth. She smiled lightly, her eyes filled with satisfaction. This man was afraid that she couldn't control herself, so he intentionally slipped away so quickly. Star. Chapter 2061. Yiqing Luo tidied herself up once again. Facing the bronze mirror, she looked left and right to ascertain that the redness on her face had subsided before she walked out of the room. It was already winter time and it was drizzling outside. The cool breeze brushed against her face and Yiqing Luo felt refreshed. Mo Ying, who was guarding outside the door, tilted her head and said flatly, Qing Luo, the weather is cold, you should wear a cape. No problem. Yiqing Luo smiled as she caressed Mo Ying's head. Has Xiao Yi's poison been neutralized? Mo Ying raised her hand and slowly smoothed her messy hair as she replied blankly, and neutralized. Looked like the antidote given by Dao Yigan was real. At least he was sensible. Otherwise, she would really bring Dmo Xian along and make a trip to Godless Island. Are you going to see Xiao Yi? After she neutralized the poison, she was brought out by Jin Zi, saying that she wanted to enjoy some alone time. Mo Ying continued. To alone time? From her point of view, those two were afraid that she would bring Dmo Xian along to show off their affection? Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head, then let them enjoy their time. I'll make a trip back to Three Springs Sect first. After all, Three Springs Sect should have a leader now. Qing Luo is going to hold the sect leader succession ceremony? Mo Ying was puzzled. If Qing Luo becomes Three Springs sect leader, then what about the world group, devil class? Yiqing Luo gave a mysterious smile. Don't worry, no matter what I become, I will always be a member of the world group and devil class. Looking at Mo Ying's lowly face, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but stretched out her hand and caressed it. Good Shadow, later bring the brothers to Three Springs Sect to watch the show. Leaving this sentence, Yiqing Luo stepped on the breeze and disappeared from the old residence. Three Springs Sect. The Three Springs Sect, which used to be bustling with noise and excitement, was now extremely quiet. When Yiqing Luo stepped into Three Springs Sect, she didn't see anyone coming forward to welcome her. Yiqing Luo faintly frowned as she looked at the few of them walking around dispiritedly. She grabbed a young maid and asked, What happened? The young maid had a shock. Turning her head to look at Yiqing Luo's face, the young maid's eyes widened as she screamed, It's young sect master. It was the young sect master. Young sect master was back. Young sect master is back. That shrill voice made Yiqing Luo's eardrums hurt. She picked her ears and stared at the maid. She looked so petite, but her explosive power was actually so strong. Not waiting for the echo in Yiqing Luo's ears to dissipate. Suddenly, circles of people swarmed in from all directions. It was none other than Zhang San and Zhang Si from the Three Springs Sect. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. The entire courtyard was surrounded by more than 400 people. Young sect leader. You're finally back. Young sect master, we all thought that you didn't want us anymore. We thought Three Springs sect was finished. Sob sob sob, I didn't expect young sect master to come back. Everyone cried and complained at the same time. Yiqing Luo expressed that watching a 7 feet tall man sobbing in front of her, this feeling, and was very strange. Stop, stop, stop. Yiqing Luo's eardrums were hurting from all the noise as she raised her hand to interrupt everyone's rambling. Zhang San, Zhang Si, you guys tell me what's going on? Why do I not want you? Yiqing Luo's words were heard. The entire place was silent. Zhang San looked at Yiqing Luo emotionally as he spoke with an excited look. Ever since the last battle, young sect master had not returned to Three Springs sect. We thought that young sect master had such a good power like the world group and was prepared to give up Three Springs sect. Star. Chapter 2062. Zhang Si wiped his tears. Young sect master, do you know how hard it has been for us to wait for you? Stop. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. Who in the entire West continent doesn't know that I'm recuperating in the world group's lair? Based on your abilities, how could you not know where I am? Zhang San and Zhang Si's tearful and agitated voices suddenly stopped. The two of them exchanged glances. Following that, they scratched the back of their heads in embarrassment as they giggled foolishly. Young sect master is wise. Indeed, nothing can be hidden from young sect master's discerning eyes. Tell me what's the matter. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she ignored their bootlicking. Zhang San looked at the surrounding brothers as he spoke in an extremely embarrassed manner. We indeed know that you're recuperating in the world group's campsite. Zhang Si and I also specially went to the world group to take a look at you. Why haven't I heard that you're here to look for me? If Three Springs sect's people came over, Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing would receive them and would definitely lead them to her room. But these 3 days, Yiqing Luo had not heard any news regarding Three Springs sect. We didn't go in. Zhang San and Zhang Si exchanged glances. After we went to Three Springs sect, we deeply felt that that place is the most suitable place for young sect master. Zhang Si nodded as the expression on his face gradually turned grave and serious. To young sect master, Three Springs sect actually shouldn't be considered as a good memory. Once when young sect master was in trouble, none of us stood out to help. Now, knowing that young sect master is yes 7th miss. We still chose to follow second young master, recommending second young master to become Three Springs sect master, helping the dark forces. Almost caused Three Springs sect to bear the infamy for life. Almost destroyed Three Springs sect. Zhang San's expression turned even more serious and solemn. Even if we betrayed young sect master, betrayed Three Springs sect. But young sect master, you still saved Three Springs sect without any hesitation, saved all of us, giving all of us a chance to repent. Young sect master, I know. We actually don't have the right to make you stay. I can tell that those children in the world group have truly treated you as their family and are willing to sacrifice their lives for you. But, young sect lord, you've already given us a chance to turn over a new leaf. Can you give us another chance to serve Three Springs sect? After the two of them finished talking. In the courtyard, more than 400 people knelt on the ground in unison. Young sect leader, please give us another chance. Give us another chance to serve the Three Springs sect. The voices of more than 400 people were extremely loud and clear. Zhang San and Zhang Si would never forget it. When they went to the world group's old residence, wanting to meet their young sect master, they saw those 15 to 16-year-old youths fighting to be the first, wanting to do something for their young sect master. They heard the boys and girls arguing. Young sect master seemed to have suffered an extremely serious injury, and required profound practitioners to exhaust their own profound energy, to help young sect master suppress something. As profounders, they were naturally most clearly aware of it. He was depleting his profound strength. How much damage would it cause to himself? If it was light, he would need to recuperate for a few months or even half a year before he could recover his depleted profound energy. If it was heavy, he would enter chi deviation and lose all his profound energy. But those children, totally disregarding these consequences. All of them were willing to sacrifice their own profound energy to help young sect master suppress it. They asked themselves honestly if it was them. Chapter 2063. In the end, they couldn't compare to those children. Even if young sect master chose the world group and abandoned Three Springs sect, that was a matter of course. After seeing that scene, Zhang San and Zhang Si didn't have the face to see Yiqing Luo. He returned to the Three Springs sect with his tail between his legs. Then he thought about it. The more he thought about it, the more flustered he became. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the young sect lord would never return to Three Springs sect. The Three Springs sect no longer had a master. Could it be? Was the Three Springs sect going to fall from the altar? With this thought in mind, everyone in the Three Springs sect spent the next 3 days in trepidation. It was until the 4th day when Yiqing Luo arrived. Yiqing Luo stood in the middle, looking at her surroundings, surrounding her in a tight encirclement. She didn't know what everyone was thinking. She only knew that these people from the Three Springs sect wanted to serve the Three Springs sect from the bottom of their hearts. Her long and narrow eyes curved, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. She stretched out her hand to help Zhang San and Zhang Si up. What nonsense are you all thinking about? When did I say that I would give up Three Springs sect? But if young sect master inherits Three Springs sect, the world group, and those children, Zhang San and Zhang Si reminded. The leader of the Three Springs sect was not as relaxed as he looked. Yiqing Luo is still a student. He was the vice group leader of the world group. If he inherited the Three Springs sect, most of her time was spent on the Three Springs sect. As for the world group, they probably wouldn't be able to care about them anymore. Yiqing Luo smiled. Who says you can't balance both? She smiled craftily, her eyes shining with a teasing light. All right, you can start preparing for the sect master succession ceremony now. While you're at it, announce it to the West Continent and invite some people over to liven things up. Pausing for a moment, she considered the time and said, tomorrow then. Tomorrow? Zhang San was startled. Isn't that too much of a rush? No. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. West Continent side should be fine. As for the other continents, we'll just send out a notice to tell them that Three Springs sect has changed hands. Zhang San and Zhang Si. Isn't this a little too casual? However, Yiqing Luo didn't give them any chance to stop her. She had already turned around and walked towards the inner courtyard of the Three Springs sect. The crowd immediately followed. Zhang San and Zhang Si still wanted to persuade him. After all, the enthronement ceremony was a big event for the Three Springs sect. How could he be so careless? However, they did not have the chance to speak again. In front of him, a group of women rushed over. At the very front was a woman with disheveled hair dressed in a white inner garment. She looked like a lunatic. She staggered towards Yiqing Luo. Behind the woman there were 5 burly old maids. Those old maids were chasing after the woman. The minute the woman saw Yiqing Luo, she immediately screamed angrily, Yiqing Luo, you bitch. You will be struck by lightning. You will not be able to reincarnate. Zhang San was quick to react. When the woman threw herself at him, he took the initiative to kick her away. The woman fell to the ground. She was held on both sides by the old woman who followed closely behind. When those old maids saw Yiqing Luo, they immediately bowed respectfully, young sect mistress. Bah! What young sect leader? She was a slut. She is the traitor of the Three Springs sect. The woman screamed madly and struggled with all her might. The old maids held on tightly and one of them directly slapped the woman's face. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of young sect master? Shut up. That woman's mouth was bleeding from the slap. But she didn't care at all. Under her messy hair, a pair of eyes was filled with an extremely cold murderous intent, star. Chapter 2064. However, to Yiqing Luo that murderous intent was nothing. Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as her lips curled into a cold arc. Isn't this second concubine? Why are you behaving like a crazy woman? After that, her charming eyes turned cold, and she shot her gaze towards the old maids behind the woman. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to speak, Zhang San was the first to berate them. How did you serve second concubine? How can you behave so crazily? If others see this as a joke, I will hold you responsible. The old maids shivered, except for the 2 old maids who were holding Madame Yuchi. The other old maids all knelt down. Third protector, please spare our lives. It's second concubine who slipped out when we weren't paying attention. The minute she heard young sect master's name, she went crazy. We old servants couldn't catch up to her at all. All right, second concubine got so agitated upon hearing my name. That also means that she was thinking of me all the time, thinking that she couldn't wait to see me, so it's not these old maids' fault. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, indicating those old maids to get up. The old maids got up gratefully. Madame Yuchi's facial features were sinister. That unwashed face looked extremely haggard, like a 50 to 60-year-old woman. Yiqing Luo. Return my daughter. Return my daughter. Yiqing Luo, you traitor, you still have delusions of obtaining Three Springs sect. Old Madam will absolutely not agree. Absolutely. Madame Yuchi's howling voice had completely turned hoarse. Her eyes were like copper bells, filled with malice. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, smiling extremely calmly. Second concubine, looks like you've really gone crazy. Your daughter? Isn't she long dead? She pushed aside Zhang San and Zhang Si, who were blocking in front of her, as she slowly walked towards Madame Yuchi. Her leisurely footwork. Every step she took. Like a huge stone, it was thrown into Madame Yuchi's heart. Madame Yuchi's twisted face gradually revealed a terrified expression. Yiqing Luo stood firm. She was just one step away from Madame Yuchi. She smiled, her eyes were burning as she gazed at Madame Yuchi, saying word by word, "Your long ago when your eldest daughter, whom you are most proud of, hooked up with the Dark Force Wolf Saint technique, in order to survive, she used your as a shield. Do you know? Your was blown to pieces, not even dregs were left. That was blasted into pieces, not even ashes were left." Madame Yuchi's face turned pale bit by bit. She shook her head crazily as tears flowed down from her. "Ling, it was you. It was you who killed my heir. It Ling. Ling Ling. Ling 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 Luan us Ling." She Ling Yiqing Luo laughed out loud and continued cruelly, "Yes, Yiqing Ling was chased out of Three Springs sect and was brought to the Dark Forces by Yiqing Jian. Using the Dark Forces sorcery, she gave Yiqing Ling the ability to control thousands of beasts. But not long ago Yiqing Chen caught my brother trying to trap me in the enchantment. I saw with my own eyes, that eldest daughter of yours, caught Yiqing Ling in front of me. Then in front of me she exploded bit by bit, blood and flesh splattered. Ah. In a frenzy, Madame Yuchi broke free from the two old maids' restraint. She hugged her head, screaming crazily. As she screamed, she sat on the ground, totally unable to accept the contents of Yiqing Luo's words. In fact, Madame Yuchi was very clear that Yiqing Luo's words were all true. Chapter 2065. She was absolutely not surprised that Yiqing Chen would kill Yiqing Ling in order to survive. Now hearing Yiqing Luo say it out personally, Madame Yuchi was still unable to accept it. She would rather believe that Yiqing Ling had died in Yiqing Luo's hands than to believe that her own daughter had died in the hands of the eldest daughter whom she was most proud of. Looking at Madame Yuchi, who was on the verge of breaking down, Yiqing Luo didn't stop provoking her as her lips curled up slightly as she continued to smile. "That's right, I forgot to tell you something. That eldest daughter whom you are so proud of. I'm afraid there's no way for her to save you." The madly howling woman immediately stopped. She stared at Yiqing Luo with bloodshot eyes filled with hatred and despair which made one's heart turn cold. "You slut! What have you done to Qian? What have you done to Qian? Yiqing Luo bent over as she looked down at Madame Yuchi as she gave an extremely cruel smile. "Do you know, the reason why Wolf Sacred Dharma dotes on Yiqing Qian is because of that face of hers which is similar to Wolf Sacred Dharma's beloved woman. As for me, I didn't take Yiqing Qian's life. After all, we are sisters, and if I were to kill her, wouldn't it seem that I'm too cold-blooded? So, I upheld my responsibility as a younger sister and conveniently helped my pitiful eldest sister to test how much true feelings Wolf Sacred Dharma has for her." Madame Yuchi's eyes widened as she understood the meaning in Yiqing Luo's words. Her facial features turned sinister once again as it was extremely terrifying. "Yiqing Luo, you ruined Qianer's face? Did you ruin Qianer's face? Yiqing Luo, you'll die a horrible death, you'll die a horrible death." Madame Yuchi wanted to pounce forward. Yiqing Luo retreated a few steps. The old maids held Madame Yuchi down at the right time. It was obvious that the relationship between young matriarch and Madame Yuchi, who had become a prisoner, was like fire and water. These old maids held onto Madame Yuchi's shoulders as they totally didn't give her any face. Madame Yuchi screamed miserably in pain as she kept on shouting and cursing. Yiqing Luo looked at the hysterical Madame Yuchi as her lips curled into a ridiculing arc. She straightened her body and turned around to walk back to Zhang San and Zhang Si's side. "It's all thanks to Second Yinyang for reminding me that old ancestor cannot be absent from the sect head succession ceremony. Looks like I still have to make a trip to old ancestor's place." Madame Yuchi's eyes were filled with madness when she heard that. Sect master's succession ceremony? Yiqing Luo, don't even think about it. How could the elder ancestor let you inherit the position of the Three Springs sect's lord? You don't have the right to inherit it. I'm not qualified. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and laughed wantonly. Don't tell me you think that Yi Qing Qian, who joined the Dark Forces, betrayed the Three Springs sect, betrayed the West Continent and even the entire Nirvana realm, is qualified. You. Madame Yuchi was so infuriated that her entire body was trembling. She flopped around in a futile attempt to charge towards Yi Qing Luo. Everyone in Three Springs sect is qualified except you. And he wants to invite the ancestor to attend the succession ceremony? Dream on. This time the old maids held her tightly. No matter how Madame Yuchi struggled, she couldn't break free from the old maid's restraint. The more she struggled, the more Madame Yuchi's expression became distorted and malevolent. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Why did Madame Yuchi keep repeating that she didn't have the right to inherit the sect head? Could it be? What did Madame Yuchi know? This thought made Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes shivered. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Madame Yuchi's collar as she suppressed her voice and questioned her in an extremely cold tone. Madame Yuchi, on what basis do you say that I don't have the right to inherit the sect head? Chapter 2066. Angry? Madame Yuchi's scarlet eyes revealed a complacent smile to be able to cause Yi Qing Luo's emotions to fluctuate. Do you want to know why you don't have the right? Ah. Her face was filled with maniacal laughter. Do you know why you're obviously the Yi family's daughter, but for the past 15 years, you've been living worse than a servant? Do you want to know the real cause of your mother's death? Ah. Beg me and I'll tell you. Every sentence Madame Yuchi said, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned gloomier, especially when she mentioned her mother. Yi Qing Luo's eyes instantly turned extremely deep and gloomy, her pair of charming eyes as though it was covered with frost. Her 5 fingers abruptly moved upwards, clasping Madame Yuchi's neck. Her slender fingers were like jade, so fair that it seemed to be emitting a thick chill. Tell me clearly what you know. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were cold as she spat out her words coldly. Madame Yuchi laughed maniacally. Even though the strength on her neck was tightening, she didn't have any fear. Kill me, kill me. If you kill me, you'll never know those secrets from back then. Bah. Yi Qing Luo gave Madame Yuchi a slap. You want to die? I forgot to tell you, my master is the ghost doctor. I have 100 ways to make you wish for death. Not talking, right? I have ways to make you talk. She clasped Madame Yuchi's neck, turning her head to look at Zhang San and Zhang Si. Bring Madame Yuchi to the dungeon, use whatever punishment you want, just leave her with one breath. Yi Qing Luo said as she looked towards Madame Yuchi. Her face was no longer as frosty as before. On the contrary, her eyes curved into a smile. Her long and narrow eyes flashed with a piercingly cold glint. She took out a pill from the profound phoenix ring, smiling as she said, Second madam, don't worry, I will absolutely not let you die so easily. Take this pill, I guarantee. As long as you can still breathe, even if your 4 limbs are broken and your internal organs are ruptured, you will absolutely be able to hang on to your last breath, maintaining your best conscious state. As she was smiling, she sent the pill into Madame Yuchi's mouth. Yi Qing Luo. How dare you? You dare. Hearing the effects of this medicinal pill, Madame Yuchi struggled, not willing to eat that medicinal pill. This kind of medicinal pill, if it was really eaten, it was an experience worse than death. Yi Qing Luo, you heartless slut. Do you want to know? Good. I'm telling you. Pa. Before Madame Yuchi finished her words, suddenly, a gust of wind from her palm struck Madame Yuchi's face. Madame Yuchi's body was like a kite with a broken string, flying out from Yi Qing Luo's palm as she flew backwards. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Madame Yuchi landed heavily on the fake mountain and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother to look at Madame Yuchi, but turned her gaze towards the direction where the palm wind came from. In front of him was a frail old man with a walking stick. He was supported by a woman who looked to be in her 30s as he walked over shakily. Ancestor. Zhang San, Zhang Si and the rest of the guards, when they saw the old man, hurriedly cupped their fists in respect. Old Madame's face was gloomy as she couldn't conceal her anger from head to toe. Chapter 2067. Madame Yuchi clutched her chest as she opened her mouth and stared fiercely at old Madame. The minute she opened her mouth, she spat out a large mouthful of blood with a wah sound. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as her lips curled into a smile as she smiled lightly. So it's old Madame. Qing Luo was still exclaiming in shock earlier on who released such a powerful energy. You're indeed old Madame. Only old Madam is able to release such a powerful, vast and majestic energy. A series of bootlicking was done without her face turning red or her heart skipping a beat. Old Madam's expression turned gloomier and gloomier. She looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, as the raging storm in her eyes was extremely clear to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo continued smiling, "I'm just about to look for old Madam to discuss about the patriarch succession ceremony. I already know about this matter." Old Madam replied in a hoarse voice as her tone was icy cold. Yiqing Luo nodded her head smilingly, "So old Madam will be present for tomorrow's succession ceremony, right?" "Yes, the succession of patriarch is such a huge matter, as the only elder in Three Springs sect, I will naturally be present." Old Madam said every word with extreme force. A pair of malicious eyes flashed with a sharp cold glint. Yiqing Luo's smile grew even more radiant as she looked at Madame Yuchi, who was sprawled on the ground, not knowing if she was dead or alive. Earlier second aunt said that old Madam will definitely not take part in the succession ceremony, and even said that I'm not qualified to become Three Springs sect's patriarch. She walked towards old Madam as she revealed an aggrieved expression. "Old Madam, I'm the young patriarch appointed by father, am I really not qualified to become the patriarch?" Old Madam's 5 fingers, which were holding onto the walking stick, suddenly tightened. The back of her shriveled and frail hand started to show green veins because of her tightened strength. Her gaze became increasingly malicious, like a sharp blade, as though it could pierce through one's heart anytime. Yiqing Luo didn't ask further as she maintained her aggrieved expression, waiting for old Madam's reply. From old Madam's expression, Yiqing Luo could tell. About 80% of what Madame Yuchi said was true. What she guessed in her heart was not far from the truth. After a while, the elder ancestor raised his chin slightly and said word by word, "You are the young master of the Three Springs sect, which means that you are the future master of the Three Springs sect. If you don't have the qualifications, who does?" With old Grand Madam's words, "I'm much more assured." Yiqing Luo grinned as she smiled like a blossoming flower. Her pair of charming eyes curved into crescents as she smiled, looking extremely alluring. Old ancestor only felt that the bright smile was extremely eye-piercing. She tightened her grip on her walking stick and restrained the restlessness in her heart. "I'm old. I'll leave the succession ceremony to you young people." As he spoke, he patted the woman next to him. "Baiming clan, this old one is tired." Baiming's eyelashes trembled slightly. She raised her head and gathered her courage. She looked at the Grand Elder and said in a low voice, "Grand Elder, please allow me to have a word with 7th young mistress." The patriarch frowned. Baiming's back was straight, his hands crossed, and he was extremely nervous. "Go." After a moment of silence, the elder ancestor agreed. Old Madam was clear on what Baiming clan wanted to do. After getting the old Madam's permission, Baiming clan's eyes lit up as she immediately turned around and walked quickly towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Seventh young mistress, I have something to tell you." Baiming clan took a few steps and jogged to the front of Yiqing Luo. Chapter 2068. "Third Madam, what's the matter?" Yiqing Luo asked despite knowing the answer. Madame Baiming bit her lower lip as she clenched her handkerchief tightly and suddenly knelt down towards Yiqing Luo. "I know that I shouldn't beg 7th Miss for this matter, but other than begging 7th Miss, there's no other way." Yiqing Luo leaned towards the right, avoiding Madame Baiming's kowtow. Madame Baiming stubbornly knelt on the ground as she raised her head and looked at Yiqing Luo sincerely. "7th Miss, I beg you to spare second young master, he's just lost his mind for a moment." Indeed, it was to plead for Yi Fengru. Madame Baiming's petite body was trembling, but she still knelt upright. "I know that second young master's sins are grave, killing his father to force the abdication, forcefully snatching the position of sect master, and even led Three Springs sect to join the dark forces, almost ruining Three Springs sect's illustrious name. But I'm second young master's birth mother. No matter what second young master's sins are, I can't bear to see him die because of this. So I boldly beg 7th Miss to spare second young master's life. I'll do anything to repay your kindness." Madame Baiming knew that Yi Fengru's sins were unpardonable. But as a mother, she still hoped that her son would be able to live on. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked at the resolute Madame Baiming and shook her head. "Third Madam, in that great battle with the dark forces, the rebels will be dealt with by the new monarch. I have no right to interfere. As long as 7th Miss is willing to spare second young master, the monarch will definitely spare his life." Madame Baiming's thoughts were exquisite, so how would she not understand that in order for Yi Fengru to live, Yiqing Luo had to nod her head. The new monarch was able to ascend the throne under such circumstances. Behind the scenes it was definitely Yi Qingluo who recommended him. As long as Yi Qingluo opened her mouth, Lung Fengying would definitely give her face. Third Madam's deep feelings for your son indeed touched me. Yi Qingluo's emotions didn't fluctuate at all. She indifferently looked at Lady Baiming. But, Third Yinyang, have you ever thought that because of Zi Chanshan's death, Yi Fengru has been so deeply provoked that he doesn't even recognize his own family? He's even willing to lay his hands on his brothers who have gone through life and death with him, and the woman who has loved him for so many years. If I let him go, as the main culprit behind Zi Chanshan's death, what should I do if he wants to kill me again? This? Lord Baiming was startled. If I let him go once, what about the second, third and fourth time? Third Yinyang, you are very smart and know how to analyze the pros and cons. I don't have that much energy to deal with his repeated assassination attempts. Yi Qingluo's words were very direct. If Third Mistress has not confirmed that Yi Fengru's consciousness has been awakened, I will not let him go. Lady Baiming was startled again. Immediately, her eyes brightened, and she kowtowed to the ground with force and wild joy. Thank you, Seventh Young Mississippi. I will definitely try my best. If I really cannot wake up the second young master, I will definitely not pester Seventh Young Miss anymore. She had made the right bet. Although there were rumors in the outside world that the Seventh Miss was cold and merciless, bloodthirsty and murderous. But she could tell. Seventh Young Miss's heart was actually very soft. As long as she was willing to put in the effort, she would be able to move Seventh Young Mississippi. Seventh Young Miss would definitely relent. Get up, old madam is tired. Go take care of old madam. You still have to work hard for tomorrow's grand ceremony. Yi Qingluo waved her hand. Lady Baiming thanked her profusely before she returned to old madam's side. Old madam took a look at the delighted Lady Baiming, and looked at Yi Qingluo with a complicated expression. But she didn't open her mouth. Chapter 2069. When the voices of the two people disappeared from his sight. Yi Qingluo looked at those old women again. Didn't you hear old madam's words? Second Yinyang has already gone mad. Take her back to the courtyard and take good care of her. Yes, young lord. The old women lowered their heads and accepted the order. Zhang San warned sternly, tomorrow is the clan head succession ceremony. Be careful not to let Second Yinyang's gossips disturb the guests attending the ceremony. The old maids carried Madame Yuqi away with trepidation. Zhang Si leaned over to Yi Qingluo's side and after suppressing the words for a long time, he finally spoke out, Young sect master, second young master he has already gone mad, how could you agree to third madam? They were at the scene of the battle. They had all seen with their own eyes that Yi Fengru had fallen into the demonic path because of a lady who had betrayed the Nirvana realm, and madly wanted to kill Yi Qingluo. But Yi Qingluo was actually willing to give Beiming clan a chance to awaken Yi Fengru. If Yi Fengru really got over that hurdle in his heart and dispelled the idea of becoming enemies with Yi Qingluo would definitely release him. As for Yi Fengru, who had killed his own father and forced the abdication of the Three Springs sect, he had even led the Three Springs sect to join the dark forces. The people of the Three Springs sect were filled with resentment. Yi Qingluo smiled faintly, I don't put him in my eyes, he's just another trouble. Moreover, I've given him this chance. If he doesn't cherish it, I won't show any mercy. Recalling the way Yi Qingluo treated Madame Yuqi earlier, Zhang San and Zhang Si shivered. Cough cough. It seemed like their young sect master was someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. The Three Springs sect's succession ceremony was about to take place. In just a few hours the news had spread like wildfire. The Three Springs sect, which had been quiet for many days, finally became lively. It was a grand and extravagant investigation. Those who sent invitations sent invitations. He was preparing for the program. There were all kinds of things. Although they were a little impatient, they were still prepared in an orderly manner. The matter of Three Springs sect's young matriarch Yi Qingluo saving the West Continent was spread widely by the commoners present. Hence, on such a festive day, the common people were also dressed in red and green, decorated with lanterns and ribbons. There was also the spontaneous festive gongs and drums of the people. All of them were praising Yi Qingluo for her huge contribution to the West Continent. On the day of the grand ceremony, the people rushed to the Three Springs sect manor early in the morning, surrounding it in 3 layers. The commoners raised the red flags in their hands, with Yi Qingluo's name written on it. It was so exaggerated that Yi Qingluo was shocked. The Three Springs sect was decorated to look extremely rich and noble. The red carpet was laid out along the way, and flower petals were scattered all over the ground. All kinds of big shots entered the Three Springs sect one after another. All kinds of rare treasures were sent to the Three Springs sect. Before dawn, the Three Springs sect was already bustling with activity. Early in the morning, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes amidst this hubbub. She stretched her body. When the maid outside heard the noise, she immediately asked if he wanted to wash up. Yiqing Luo got up and washed up simply. Outside the door, a few maids carried a navy blue brocade robe, looking extremely dignified. On the brocade robe, there was a large Yi character embroidered. This is the patriarch's robe that old madam ordered me to send over. I will help young matriarch change into it. The maid said respectfully. Yiqing Luo stared at that set of brocade robe, and could tell at one glance that it was specially made according to her figure. Apparently, this robe had been prepared a long time ago. Looking at the workmanship, it was definitely not something that could be completed in a day or two. Chapter 2070. The maids brought the brocade robe forward. Yiqing Luo hurriedly received that brocade robe. I'll do it myself, all of you can leave now. The maids couldn't persuade Yiqing Luo and could only remind her on the details of how to wear the brocade robe before leaving. The place where the inheritance ceremony was held was in Three Springs sect's biggest garden. Under the meticulous decorations of several hundred maids, the garden was filled with flowers and it was extremely beautiful. In the middle of the garden, there was a high stage which could stand 300 people with a long table and a few armchairs. And right in front of the high stage was a sacrificial altar. A huge heavenly joss stick was burning with green smoke. By the side of the sacrificial altar, stood a white-robed old man who looked like an immortal, with his eyes closed as he rested, with an unfathomable attitude. Surrounding the high stage were rows of exquisite delicacies, desserts etc. long tables. Those were the seats to receive VIPs. Three Springs sect was the West Continent's competition. Three Springs sect's change of ownership to the West Continent was an extremely joyous matter. In the entire garden, there were at least 10 over famous and promising people from various powerhouses. Even those powerhouses who usually had enmity with each other when they came to Three Springs sect, they all laughed off their enmity, not creating any trouble in Three Springs sect. It was almost midnight, which was around 9 in the morning. Three Springs sect's garden was already filled with guests. Even the representatives from other continents who came later squeezed together with a group of people, wanting to join in on the liveliness. The bustling garden was bustling with noise. Suddenly they heard a notification, the monarch has arrived. Following that, they saw Lung Feng dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe as he slowly walked over. He only brought along a eunuch, who was holding an exquisite jade box in his hand. When the crowd saw that, they all stood up to welcome him. Greetings to the monarch. The people present here were basically existences that could shake the entire Western continent 3 times with a casual shake. There was no need for them to kneel down when they saw Lung Feng. Lung Feng waved his hand warmly. Everyone please don't be so courteous. Today's main venue is Three Springs sect and I am only here as a friend to congratulate Qing Luo on inheriting Three Springs sect. The crowd started to laugh softly. Lung Feng's words made everyone's hearts beat like drums. Anyone with a discerning eye knew. The reason why Lung Feng was able to become the new monarch was all because of Yiqing Luo's blessings. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, Lung Feng might still be dispirited in the Crown Prince Palace. Looking at how Lung Feng only brought along a father-in-law to attend Yiqing Luo's succession ceremony, it could be seen that the relationship between the new sovereign and the future sovereign of the Three Springs sect was not ordinary. After all, a monarch is a monarch and a subject is a subject. A monarch is the son of heaven, so there is no need for him to lower himself and force himself to be friends with the 7th girl. On the high platform, an old voice broke the guesses of the crowd. Everyone's gaze immediately followed the sound. On the high platform, the luxuriously dressed old ancestor had a gloomy expression on his face, as though he was unattainable. Although old ancestor's words seemed to be elevating Lung Feng and belittling their Three Springs sect, saying that they were unable to climb up to the royal family. However, his words were too rude. Even if it was Lung Feng at this moment, his expression was also rather ugly. He coughed dryly and said in a gentle voice, "Ancestor, have you misunderstood something?" Chapter 2071. Old Grand Madame's unyielding attitude, no matter who it was, would be able to tell the deep meaning behind it. Lung Fengying stopped the words he was about to say. The expression on his face was still gentle and calm. But beneath his eyes, there was an indistinct sharp glint. This old Grand Madame? What did she mean? Why, it seemed as though she wanted to draw a line between the royal family and Yiqing Luo. Old Grand Madame's eyes are really sharp, to be able to see through the sovereign's true thoughts at one look. Suddenly, a sweet smiling voice was heard from the backyard of the garden. Yiqing Luo strolled leisurely with her hands behind her back, as she slowly walked over from the backyard's small path. That leisurely look totally didn't show the solemnity and nervousness of her inheriting the position of Three Springs Sect's sovereign. Yiqing Luo's dressing today was slightly more formal. She was still wearing a red long dress. But today she had put in quite a bit of effort on the long dress. Different from usual, it was so simple and elegant that there was no pattern at all. The red long dress which she wore today was adorned with silver scales, sparkling with a dazzling brilliance. Her long black hair was tied up simply and a simple cherry blossom jade hairpin was inserted diagonally. It looked extremely elegant and quick-witted. Standing on the stage, they instantly felt an extremely majestic aura being released from the young lady. Everyone's mind instantly surfaced 4 words. 9. Heavens. Xian. Female. You. Why aren't you wearing the sovereign's attire which I have prepared for you? Old Grand Madame saw Yiqing Luo and suddenly slammed the table as she stood up, as her brows creased into a bundle. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she gave an evil and flamboyant smile. I feel that wearing my own clothes is more comfortable. Presumptuous. Old Grand Madame's face was filled with anger. Usually you throw a tantrum and I can indulge you. But today is such a solemn day and you're still so presumptuous. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Facing the raging Old Grand Madame, her lips curled slightly. When has Old Grand Madame ever indulged me? 7th girl. Old Grand Madame seemed as though she had not expected Yiqing Luo to embarrass her in front of so many people. Yiqing Luo dug her ears. Old Grand Ancestor, I'm just beside you and I can hear you. There's no need to shout so loudly, leave your voice. Later on, you still need to express your feelings towards the new sovereign. The old ancestor was so angry that his entire body was trembling. The hand that was holding onto the walking stick also had green veins popping out. Lady Biming stood at the side and immediately took the old ancestor's arm. She said gently, Old ancestor, I know that you haven't been able to rest well for a few nights in order to prepare the sect leader's attire for Miss Seven. After all, Miss Seven is only a 15-year-old child. How would she like such dark-colored clothes? Please don't bother with a child. Her voice was not loud, but it was not soft either. It explained the current situation in an appropriate manner. Ancestor, today is a big day for the Three Springs sect. Why don't you just smile? Don't look so serious. You're scaring the juniors, Biming advised warmly. The old ancestor's expression became more restrained. The hand that was holding onto the walking stick tightened. Following that, she raised her head and looked at Yiqing Luo as her gaze became gentler. Forget it, forget it. I'm old and don't understand the colors that you youngsters like. Since 7th girl likes to wear this attire, then wear this attire to inherit the sovereign's position. Saying that, she returned to her seat with Lady Biming's support. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to haggle with the old Grand Madame. Chapter 2072. Yiqing Luo's words caused ripples in everyone's hearts. In the eyes of outsiders? Outsiders? Earlier when she said that Lung Fengying was barely friends with Yiqing Luo, it was from Old Grand Madame. Yiqing Luo, this outsider, was she referring to? Old Grand Madame? Tiske, why did it feel that today's Three Springs sect patriarch succession ceremony wasn't as simple as what they had imagined? Somehow, the amount of information was a little too much. Lung Fengying stood up as he wasn't anxious nor impatient as he laughed warmly. My and Qing Luo's brotherhood had already been set when Qing Luo just entered the Heavenly Academy. You're my best brother, so how would I possibly force myself on you? His words were sincere and gentle. Especially when he spoke to Yiqing Luo, he used I to address himself, which meant that he had let go of his monarch position to interact with Yiqing Luo. Even if it was the previous Three Springs sect patriarch Yi Tianquang, he probably wouldn't receive such courteous treatment from the previous monarch. This was called barely treating Yiqing Luo as a friend? The two of them were obviously very good brothers. Not to mention a man and a woman, there was no such thing as pure friendship. Not to mention how the crowd didn't suspect that the so-called brotherhood between Yi Qing Luo and Lung Feng actually had a hidden meaning. With such an outstanding man like the Overlord around, the other men were all scum all right? Unless Yi Qing Luo was blind. Which was why she didn't want the Overlord to have an affair with Lung Feng in the dark. So these two absolutely had a clean brotherhood relationship that couldn't be any cleaner. Yi Qing Luo knew that right from the start when Lung Feng entered the garden, he had lowered his stance and said in public that they were friends. But he wanted to make use of her current rallying power. Lung Feng had just ascended the throne not long ago. Whereas Yi Qing Luo was now the West Continent's hero, a famous person in the West Continent. Only by borrowing Yi Qing Luo's current power would he be able to stabilize his own position. This kind of use, if it was in the past, Yi Qing Luo would have hated it. But, now that she was so cooperative, she also had her own plans. She curved her charming eyes as her gaze landed on the jade box which the eunuch was holding behind Lung Feng. Following that, her face revealed a crafty smile. Then how can I see your sincerity? Lung Feng took a look at eunuch behind him. The eunuch quickly stepped forward and raised the jade box high above his head with both hands. In a shrill voice he said, "In order to celebrate 7th Miss Ye's ascension as the new leader of the Three Springs sect, the monarch has specially presented this to 7th Miss Ye as a congratulatory gift." What congratulatory gift? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Lung Feng narrowed his eyes as he acutely sensed that Yi Qing Luo's reaction was a little strange. As though Yi Qing Luo had long known what the congratulatory gift he had prepared was. He suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and waved his hand, indicating for his eunuch to open the jade box. The eunuch accepted the order and respectfully opened the jade box. The monarch has specially gifted the tiger emblem to the 7th Miss of the night to show his sincerity. The crowd burst into an uproar. Even the old ancestor could not sit still. Elder ancestor shuddered and slammed the table. She stood up abruptly and stared at the box in her eunuch's hand. What? Tiger Tally? Monarch, how could you give such a precious thing to the Tiger Tally? That was something that could summon the Western Continent's royal army. He gifted the Tiger Talisman to Yi Qing Luo. If Yi Qing Luo had the intention to rebel, then she would be able to occupy the Western Continent in minutes. Was there something wrong with Monarch's brain? Everyone couldn't believe that Monarch actually took such a huge risk to gift the Tiger Tally to Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 2073. Only one piece. That was already very heaven-defying, alright? 1 Three Springs sect and 200,000 imperial soldiers. If Yi Qing Luo wanted to rebel, it was just a matter of minutes. Lung Feng smiled warmly. Is Qing Luo satisfied with his sincerity? Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly and nodded, satisfied. Lung Feng gave him a look. The eunuch held the jade box and was about to step forward. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she shook her head. Don't be in a hurry to send it over, everything shall wait till after the succession ceremony. Eunuch stopped in his tracks as he turned back to look at Lung Feng. Seeing Lung Feng nod his head, eunuch then kept the jade box and returned to Lung Feng's side. Because Lung Feng was expressing his sincerity, the atmosphere of the ceremony gradually livened up. After Yi Qing Luo greeted everyone, the sound of a gong could be heard from the altar. The old man who was meditating like an old monk suddenly opened his eyes and shouted loudly, "The auspicious time to worship the heavens has arrived. Young sect master, please move to the altar and carry out the heavenly worship ceremony." A deep voice suddenly exploded in the crowd like a clap of thunder. Everyone was shocked. Yi Qing Luo picked her ears as she gave an impatient look at the elderly man as her lips twitched. "We're not far from each other, can't you lower your voice?" The old man was expressionless and extremely serious. "Young sect master, please move to the altar and carry out the heaven offering ceremony." Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. However, he still walked towards the altar. Behind him, the old ancestor leaned on his walking stick, his face dark and terrifying, his malicious eyes filled with a piercingly cold light. Watching as Yi Qing Luo approached the altar step by step, the old ancestor seemed to be unable to restrain himself any longer and was about to charge forward. Lady Baiming grabbed the elder ancestor's hand in time and said in a low voice, "Elder ancestor, please think twice before you act. Miss Seven is no longer the same as before. If the elder ancestor insists on stopping Miss Seven's succession ceremony and provokes Miss Seven's retaliation, the consequences will be unimaginable." The old ancestor's footsteps stopped. "Old ancestor, don't think about anything. Just quietly watch as 7th young mistress becomes the Three Springs Sect's sect master. I can say with certainty that as long as 7th Miss becomes the sect leader of the Three Springs Sect, our Three Springs Sect will definitely become the leader of the 4 great sects in the future. Bai Ming knew the old ancestor's state of mind very well. Every word that he said was right into the old ancestor's heart. The elder ancestor gripped his walking stick tightly and finally sat back in his seat. Towards the small movements behind her, how could Yi Qing Luo, who had an extremely strong sense of perception, not sense it? Hearing the sound of old Grand Madame sitting down, Yi Qing Luo laughed coldly in her heart. This Bai Ming woman was truly intelligent. She had seen through everything so clearly. It was no wonder that such an intelligent woman could grasp the heart of the old ancestor so firmly within a short period of time when she was the head of the family. It was precisely because of Bai Ming's intelligence. The Bai Ming clan was also very smart and would not choose to become enemies with Yi Qing Luo. He walked to the altar. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and looked at the solemn old man beside her. This old man was an elder of the Three Springs Sect. It was said that he had lived in the Three Springs Sect for 500 years. Other than the important matters of the Three Springs Sect, this sect elder would absolutely not appear. The Three Springs Sect's sect master succession ceremony had always been presided over by the sect elder, the so-called heaven offering ceremony. And it was because of the legends regarding the 4 great sections. The 4 great sects were the legends of the God clan's tomb guardians. Therefore, the sect elder had to ask the heavens for an answer during the sect master's heaven offering ceremony. Chapter 2074. Yi Qing Luo could feel it clearly. This sect elder was extremely disdainful towards her. Thinking of old Grand Madame and the sect elder's attitude, Yi Qing Luo was no longer surprised. It didn't matter whether they liked her or how they treated her. Young matriarch, please take a step forward and raise the smoke to worship the heavens. Raising the smoke meant lighting the incense and kowtowing. Yi Qing Luo stood in front of the altar and didn't move. The sect elder had already stuffed 3 incense sticks into Yi Qing Luo's fingers. He immediately stretched out his hand and pressed Yi Qing Luo's shoulder, trying to force her to kowtow. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she squinted her eyes in displeasure when the sect elder made his move. She was about to grab the sect elder's wrist. Suddenly a loud boom sound was heard. From the sky, a majestic profound energy came straight towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The sect elder reacted swiftly. Just as he sensed the profound energy, he immediately let go of Yi Qing Luo's shoulder and quickly retreated to avoid the profound energy attack. Damn old man. Yi Qing Luo cursed in her heart as her lips twitched with a sneer. Her 5 fingers moved and the glower flame fan opened up on her fingertips. A raging hurricane shot out from the glower flame fan. It collided with that profound energy attack. A loud bam was heard and Yi Qing Luo directly used her overwhelming strength to fiercely suppress that oncoming profound chi back to where it came from. Ah! A scream was heard. A figure fell from the sky. Receiving the power of Yi Qing Luo's hurricane and his own strength, that person had not lost his life. When he hit the ground, he suddenly flipped over and stabilized his body as he half knelt on the ground. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Second young master. The lady's incredulous cry was heard from the high platform as Bei Mingshi staggered forward and knelt beside the person who sneaked an attack on Yi Qing Luo. That person was none other than Yi Fengru. It was Yi Fengru who should be locked up in the palace's dungeon. Bei Mingshi held Yi Fengru's hand and cried out in fright, "Second young master, why did you do this? Today is 7th Mrs. Succession ceremony, how could you? Bai Ming's palm warmed Yi Fengru's cold hand. His eyes, which were originally filled with hatred as he stared at Yi Qing Luo, slowly shifted onto Bei Ming clan. He recognized the Bai Ming clan. The expression on his face softened a little. The viciousness in his eyes also faded a little. Mother? Yi Fengru said in a hoarse voice. Bai Ming's tears fell like rain. As a member of a large clan, as a concubine, she had no right to call her young master by his name, even if that young master was her own son. And her son could not call her mother in front of others. Now, hearing the word mother, Bai Ming's heart throbbed with pain. She held her son's hand tightly and said in a choked voice, "Son, listen to me, don't think about avenging Miss Z anymore." At the mention of the name Miss Z, Yi Fengru's body stiffened and his clear eyes were once again tainted with madness. He fiercely shook off Bai Ming clan as he stood up and stared at Yi Qing Luo malevolently. Yi Qing Luo, you have no right to inherit this sovereign position. Get down from the altar. Son. Baiming clan wanted to pounce forward. Yi Qing Luo immediately moved and shifted to Baiming clan's side as she grabbed her arm. Yi Fengru's condition is not right, don't go over, he might hurt you. Chapter 2075. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked at the hysterical and crazy Yi Fengru. She let go of Bei Ming's hand as her eyes remained calm. Now it's not about whether I am willing to save him or not, but whether he is willing to let himself go. 7th Miss actually Ru or he. His nature is not bad, he is bewitched. How could Bei Ming not see her son's abnormal craziness? Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, stand at the back. Bei Ming clenched her handkerchief tightly, but Ru or he. I promised you that I will give him a chance. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Bei Ming indifferently. Bei Ming bit her lower lip as she chose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. Now she could only choose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. Bei Ming retreated to old grandmadame's side as she clenched her handkerchief nervously as she stared at Yi Fengru's direction worriedly. She ignored old grandmadame who was standing beside her as she heaved a sigh of relief. Old grandmadame's fingers which were holding onto her walking stick tightened. Her sinister eyes looked at Yi Fengru. She totally ignored Yi Fengru's craziness. Her eyes were even filled with joy as she rejoiced that Yi Fengru was here. Yi Fengru, I don't care if you are pretending to be crazy or acting dumb or who bewitched you. Yi Qing Luo's sweet voice was pleasant to listen to. But unfortunately her tone was cold like a cold current, penetrating into one's heart. Her expression was indifferent without any emotions. Everyone present felt a chill down their spines as an inexplicable chill rose from the bottom of their feet as they couldn't help but shiver. Considering that the Baiming clan has spent some effort on Ziling and Little Yu, I can give you a chance. She walked slowly towards Yi Fengru's direction. Either you put down your weapons now and find a place to sit at the guest seating area and finish this succession ceremony. Otherwise, I'll kill you now and continue with the succession ceremony. Her words were filled with a smile. But it still couldn't conceal the coldness in her words. Everyone sat upright, straightened their backs and looked down, indicating that they would only listen quietly and not disturb. Yi Fengru's crazed eyes were dyed with fiery flames. He stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, his facial features were sinister and terrifying. Yi Qing Luo, I will absolutely not let Three Springs sect fall into the hands of an outsider. You're not a member of the Yi clan at all. What right do you have to become the sect master of the Three Springs sect? He lifted his foot and stomped on the ground. Immediately, a strong wave of profound energy rippled out from the ground beneath his feet. As the hurricane blew, some light items and decorations were scattered all over the ground. Yi Fengru's words were like a stone thrown into a still pond. It set off layers upon layers of ripples. Those who came to participate in the Three Springs sect succession ceremony today were all famous and promising figures in the West Continent. There were even representatives from other continents who came to congratulate them. Yi Fengru's words shocked everyone present. An outsider? Yi Qing Luo was an outsider? Yi Qing Luo wasn't part of the Yi family? How was this possible? The whirlwind enveloped Yi Qing Luo within it. Yi Qing Luo didn't move. Her standing posture was languid and the expression on her face didn't show any signs of shock from Yi Fengru's words. She lightly raised her pink lips. Oh? What evidence do you have to prove that I'm not from the Yi family? Chapter 2076. Enough, Baiming, since second brother has already told us the truth, we don't need to hide anymore. Old grandmadame's aged voice interrupted Baiming's explanation. Baiming was stunned and turned to look at old grandmadame in disbelief. Old grandmadame stretched out her hand and pressed on Baiming's shoulder. Her malicious eyes flashed with a trace of strange cold light. That cold light made Baiming's breath tighten. She pursed her red lips and did not dare to continue. Then, elder ancestor let go of her and slowly walked to the front of the high platform with the help of her walking stick. Everyone's eyes were focused on old grandmadame. What old grandmadame said just now had really disrupted everyone's train of thought. Could it be, Yi Qing Luo was really not from the Yi family? Under everyone's hopeful gaze. Old grandmadame's hands rested on his walking stick as he cleared his throat and his gaze sunk as he looked at everyone present, sighing softly. What number 2 said is right, Yi Qing Luo is indeed not a member of our Yi family. What? 7th Miss Yi is not from the Yi family? That is to say. 7th Miss Yi is not the young matriarch of Three Springs sect? How is that possible? How could Madame Yi not be from the Yi family? Her talent, her courage, and her strength. Except for the descendant of the Three Springs sect, one of the 4 major sects, only she could reach such a level. Who else could have such an advantage in cultivation? Old Grand Madame's words caused everyone present to express their disbelief. Amidst these incredulous questions and doubts, a different voice gradually emerged. To tell you the truth, I felt very strange just now. Old Grand Madame's attitude towards 7th Miss Yi is really totally not like how you treat your granddaughter. Yes, I have this feeling too. I just wanted to say that Old Grand Madame does not seem to want 7th Miss Yi to inherit the position of patriarch. Old Grand Madame does not want Three Springs sect to fall into the hands of an outsider. If 7th Miss Yi is really not from the Yi family, then she indeed does not have the right to inherit the position of Three Springs sect's patriarch. Listening to the voices behind, it constantly stirred up the emotions of the surrounding people. Yi Qingluo's pink lips curled into a cold arc of ridicule. She narrowed her eyes. She stared at those who doubted her qualifications to inherit the position of the sect master with a faint smile. These people, he looked very unfamiliar. Each of them looked to be in their 20s or 30s. There was an unconcealable hostility between his brows. It was obvious that his hands were stained with blood, and he was someone who lived on the edge of a knife. Yi Qingluo scoffed lightly as her lips curled into a ridiculing cold arc. She raised her eyes and looked at the old ancestor calmly and indifferently. I have to admit that the old ancestor's heart is really big. While watching the Three Springs sect fall, you still have to drag the younger generation into the abyss. She shook her head helplessly and clicked her tongue. The Yi clan must have done too many wicked things in their previous lives to have such an elder who cheats the younger generation like you. 7th girl. Old Grand Madame and Yi Qingluo exchanged glances, her voice still maintaining the old helpless tone. This old one just can't bear to see Three Springs sect, just like that, fall into the hands of outsiders. This old one must tell everyone about this matter. Yi Qingluo scoffed lightly, tisk. She knew that Old Grand Madame would absolutely not let the patriarch succession ceremony go on smoothly so easily. Looking at the heartache and helplessness on the face of the old ancestor, could she use a sentence that was not appropriate but the meaning was similar, to express her own feelings? Chapter 2077. Haha. Yi Qingluo, have you ever thought why? You are the Yi family's daughter, the future young matriarch of Three Springs sect. But unfortunately, you are living in an abandoned courtyard, eating leftovers that are worse than the servants. You have even eaten the dog's food. In this Three Springs sect, no matter who it is, they can bully you, tease you, they don't like you. Yi Fengru got Old Grand Madame's cooperation. His heart was getting more and more arrogant. He laughed loudly, his sinister facial features made his laughter look extremely treacherous and sinister. Yi Qingluo smiled coldly, there was no trace of emotion on her face. That pair of charming eyes, extremely calm and indifferent. As if she totally didn't put Yi Fengru's words to heart. Yi Fengru laughed and laughed. He didn't get any response. The laughter gradually came to an abrupt end. He frowned and stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo, trying to find any flaw on her face. That fiery red long-robed young lady was expressionless from beginning to end. Only that cold sneer at the corner of her mouth added a bit of liveliness to that gorgeous face. Yi Fengru's heart had suffered a serious blow. He thought that as long as he said this matter out, Yi Qingluo would definitely not be able to take this blow. After all, Yi Qingluo had always thought that she was the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. And relying on the title of young matriarch, she had bullied many people. Most people, after hearing that they were not from the Yi family, the first reaction would be to think about who their biological parents were. But Yi Qingluo totally didn't look like she could not take the blow. On the contrary, she already knew everything. Yi Fengru was unwilling, his facial features tightened, gritted his teeth and continued, Yi Qingluo, Old Grand Madame doesn't like you. Every time father sees you, other than disgust, there's hatred. Do you want to know the reason? Do you know? That shameless mother of yours cheating on father. Pa. The crisp sound of a slap interrupted Yi Fengru's voice. Yi Fengru cried out in pain, blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. But he wasn't angry, instead he laughed. Yi Qingluo stood in front of him at a close distance. Her fiery red dress fluttered along with the hurricane, like a butterfly flapping its wings and about to take flight. However, in the next instant, The hurricane surrounding her suddenly formed a stream of air that struck Yi Fengru's body. Yi Fengru didn't even have time to scream. He was sent flying backward. Yi Qingluo's expression was cold, her pair of charming eyes were filled with anger and chilliness. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he bared his fangs and brandished his claws. At this moment she was like a fairy descending from the heavens. It was a majestic aura that reigned above the world. It made everyone's hearts tighten, as they had an impulse to crawl beside Yi Qingluo's feet. What kind of powerful aura was this? A 15-year-old girl actually had such a heaven-defying aura. Ha! Yi Fengru fell to the ground, laughing even more carefreely. I thought you really don't care about this matter. I know your weakness, Yi Qingluo. What you don't want to hear, I will tell you. Yi Fengru, do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Yi Qingluo's cold tone was full of murderous intent. What did Yi Fengru say about her? She didn't care about people who were unimportant to her. But her mother was her reverse scale. Chapter 2078. Yi Fengru was fearless. Alright, kill me, ha. Anyway, Qian Qian has already died in your hands, I don't want to live alone. Suddenly, his expression turned cold and his tone changed. But, before I die, I will make all the shameless things that your shameless mother has done public. Yi Qingluo's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, streams of powerful airflow surged around her body. Like a whirlpool rolling like a tide. At this moment, those bright and alluring eyes seemed to be dyed with a blood-red color. Yi Fengru's laughter stopped abruptly. He was extremely far away from Yi Qingluo. When Yi Qingluo's body was surrounded by one after another whirlpool, Yi Fengru was directly knocked away by that whirlpool. Yi Fengru's laughter stopped abruptly. His face turned extremely pale in an instant. Yi Qingluo's strength. It was so powerful that it was beyond his expectations. Heavens! 7th Miss Yi is a Sky Shen Supreme Master. What a powerful strength. Supreme Being Expert. Supreme Being. 7th Miss Yi seems to be only 15 years old, a 15-year-old Sky Profound Overlord. There is only one person in the world, only one. Has everyone forgotten that Miss Ye's 7th young lady has only just begun her cultivation this year? The whole audience was silent because of this sentence. That's right, how could they forget? In the past 15 years Yi Qingluo was famous for being a waste. In other words, Yi Qingluo had cultivated from a waste to a Sky Profound Overlord in just a few months, in less than a year? F***CK. They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. They would rather believe in another folk legend. Yi Qingluo was actually pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, hiding her true profound grade until she found the big backer, the Overlord, then she dared to boldly tell everyone about her strength. On this side, everyone was so shocked by Yi Qingluo that they couldn't regain their senses. The Baiming clan's face was pale, struggling to rush forward. 7th Miss, please have mercy, but she hadn't moved a step. However, Old Ancestor clutched her shoulders tightly. The force was so great that it seemed as if it wanted to dislodge her shoulders. Baiming struggled madly, his face twitching in pain. Ancestor, I beg you to let me go. Ruer is my life, I can't lose him, no matter how much Baiming cried or screamed. Old Ancestor kept a gloomy face and refused to let go of his hand no matter what. Under the pressure of the powerful dark force, Yi Fengru was forced to roll on the ground several times. His chest couldn't withstand such pressure, and he felt a metallic taste in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Yi Fengru propped himself up on a rockery in the garden and fiercely wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. He laughed heartily. Yi Qingluo, don't tell me? You're not interested in your mother's matters? Do you know the reason why you were ostracized everywhere in the Yi clan? He leaned against the fake mountain and panted heavily. He enunciated each word clearly, and his voice spread to every corner of the Three Springs sect with his profound qi. Yi Qingluo, your mother is a fickle female prostitute. She was the legal wife in the Three Springs sect and was unwilling to be lonely, so she hooked up with men outside. In the end, she accidentally got pregnant. At that time, her father was in another continent and it had been more than 2 months. The pregnancy timing didn't match at all. Chapter 2079. There was no need for Yi Fengru to continue. Everyone was able to imagine it. It was nothing more than Yi Qingluo's mother making use of that night to turn the child in her belly into Yi Tianquang's child. Everyone looked at Yi Qingluo with a bit of inquisitiveness and scrutiny. But Yi Qingluo's expression was still calm, as though anything to her was of no importance. Yi Fengru explained the matter in detail. He wanted to see Yi Qingluo unable to accept it and on the verge of collapse. But Yi Qingluo still had this indifferent expression. On the contrary, Yi Fengru's emotions were getting more and more unstable. He clenched his fists, the veins on his forehead bulged, gritted his teeth and continued, "You're a bastard who doesn't even know who your father is. For so many years, you have occupied the position of the Yi family's first wife's daughter, Three Spring Sect's young matriarch. On what basis? Based on your fickle, shameless mother who deceived your father?" His questioning made everyone present breathe cautiously. For fear of making the slightest sound and becoming the target of public criticism. Everyone's mood was both complicated and excited. The complicated thing was that there was a lot of information in Three Springs Sect that they had heard about. If this matter spread too far in the world of martial artists in the future, there was a high possibility that they would be blamed for it. As the saying goes, the more you know, the earlier you die. What was exciting was that the information they heard today was the rumored descendants of the Divine Emperor's Tomb Keeper, the Three Springs Sect, the secret history of one of the four major sects. This kind of thing, if it happened on a normal day, it would be absolutely impossible to find out this kind of secret history even if they tried their best to inquire about it. Everyone's heart was tightly clenched along with the confrontation between Yi Fengru and Yi Qingluo. Just when everyone thought that Yi Qingluo would absolutely go berserk again and beat Yi Fengru up. But, giggle giggle, giggle giggle. A coquettish laughter broke the stiff atmosphere. That laughter, unbridled and arrogant. There was a kind of arrogant and fearless feeling. This laughter. It made Yi Fengru's hair stand on end when he heard it. "Yi Fengru, is there something wrong with your brain?" Yi Qingluo shot a contemptuous glance at him, her eyes were filled with disdain. "As you said, in these 15 years Yi Tianquang simply didn't treat me as his daughter. I'm just a person who doesn't even know my father. Then, why until now am I still the young sect master of the Three Springs Sect?" Yi Qingluo's words had just ended. Yi Fengru's face darkened. Yi Qingluo beamed as she continued, "You asked me why, then I'll tell you. Because Yi Tianquang insisted on making me the young matriarch. Or perhaps, it's not that your brain has been caught in the door, but Yi Tianquang's brain has been caught in the door." Yi Fengru was left speechless. Everything that Yi Qingluo said was true and no one was able to refute it. Everyone came to a realization. That's right, if Yi Qingluo wasn't a member of the Yi family, Yi Tianquang would have long known that Yi Qingluo wasn't his biological daughter. Then why did he allow Yi Qingluo to be the young sect matriarch for so many years? Don't say anything, the young matriarch must be the first wife's daughter. Just take the point that Yi Qingluo was a waste without any cultivation foundation. Yi Tianquang had enough reason to choose a new young matriarch. But Yi Qingluo had been the young matriarch for a whole 15 years. Unless Yi Tianquang's brain had really been caught in the door. Chapter 2080. Yi Fengru didn't expect Yi Qingluo to be able to respond calmly at this moment. And her response made his words stuck in his throat. His face was ashen, and his scarlet and crazed eyes were wide open like copper bells. His whole body was taut and his muscles were distinct. After a long while, he squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. "How would I know what father is thinking? But you are not from the Yi family, this is an indelible fact." Yi Qingluo raised her brows and sneered. The indifference on her face and the disdain in her eyes made the surrounding crowd believe Yi Qingluo's words without a doubt. Their gazes towards Yi Fengru were filled with suspicion. Old Grandmadam didn't wait for Yi Qingluo to speak and said, "Seventh girl, what second brother said, is true. You are indeed not a child of the Yi family." She was the only elder in the Yi family and also the most senior elder. Her words were more convincing than Yi Fengru's. Old Grandmadam swept a glance at everyone and sighed softly. "That year Tianquang didn't know that you are not his daughter, but eighth brother's birth. That year they thought that Yi Qingluo's mother was pregnant with Yi Qingluo, so they schemed to enter her courtyard. But after 8 months, Yi Qingluo's mother unexpectedly gave birth prematurely. The first to come out was Yi Qingluo. After Yi Qingluo was carried out by the midwife, they discovered that there was another child in her womb. But because it was a premature baby, Yi Fengyu's condition was very bad. After Yi Fengyu was born, he was on the verge of death as though he would die any time. This was the son of the Yi family. How could old Grandmadam bear to let her son die at birth? More importantly, on the few young masters and young ladies of the Yi family. Old Grand Madam hadn't found one with the imprint of the future patriarch. This son might get the inheritance of the patriarch, the imprint of the god emperor. Hence, Old Grand Madam made use of the Yi family's ancestral forbidden art, hoping to use the blood of her twin sister Yi Qing Luo to cast the forbidden art to save Yi Fengyu. But the forbidden art failed. Because Yi Qing Luo's blood and Yi Fengyu's blood were totally incompatible. The two of them were not real siblings. This caused the old ancestor and Yi Tianquang to be endlessly shocked. He couldn't believe it. They were born from the same stomach, so why weren't they brother and sister? In the end, Yi Tianquang could only use his own blood as a primer to let the old ancestor use a forbidden technique to save Yi Fengyu's life. Yi Tianquang's blood could fuse with Yi Fengyu's, and the Yi clan's forbidden technique could also succeed. This was enough to prove that Yi Fengyu was Yi Tianquang's flesh and blood. There was no doubt about it. But Yi Fengyu and Yi Qing Luo's blood could not merge. In other words, Yi Qing Luo was not Yi Tianquang's flesh and blood. Born of the same parents but not of the same bloodline? How is this possible? Your Yi family doesn't want Madame Yi Qing Luo to inherit the position of patriarch, so there's no need to weave such a ridiculous lie, right? That's right. Who would believe such words? Madame Yi Qing Luo doesn't care about the sovereign's position, all right? Don't forget that Madame Yi Qing Luo also has her own power. The Yi clan's face is too ugly. All kinds of discussions interrupted Old Grand Madam's recollection. This kind of thing was really too bizarre. No matter who it was, they couldn't believe such words. Looking at Old Grand Madam's attitude towards Yi Qing Luo from the beginning to the end. Chapter 2081. Everyone had long been brainwashed by Yi Qing Luo's heroic feat of forcing the dark forces to retreat and saving the West continent from the abyss of suffering. No matter what Old Grand Madam said, everyone's heart was still on Yi Qing Luo's side. Immediately, one by one, they belittled the Yi family. It was simply unbearable to listen to. Old Grand Madam's face darkened bit by bit. Her breathing also became hurried at this moment. She suppressed the anger in her chest. To say this kind of thing in public not only let everyone ridicule Yi Tianquang for being cuckolded, it also let everyone ridicule the entire Three Springs sect. But now that things had come to this, she had no other choice. She would rather Three Springs sect become a laughing stock, and absolutely not willing to see Three Springs sect fall into the hands of an outsider. Old Grand Madam tightened her grip on the walking stick and coughed hard. A powerful pressure enveloped the entire garden in an earth-shattering manner. It also successfully suppressed the noise in the garden. Old Grand Madam cleared her throat, looking at everyone with a gloomy expression. How would I joke about such a thing? That day after I used the forbidden art, I suffered from the backlash and went into closed-door cultivation to recuperate for more than half a month. After I came out, I then found out Three Springs sect's matriarch's wife had long colluded with men outside secretly. As Old Grand Madam spoke, her voice choked. Every word seemed to be filled with endless anger and helplessness. Yes, seventh girl came out from that woman's belly. Old eight also came out from that woman's belly. Tianquang had asked the midwife who delivered them and was indeed able to confirm this point. The only thing that can explain this point is that that woman, during the month when Tianquang was not at home, she slept with other men and got pregnant. After that, when Tianquang came back, she schemed to lure him into her room and got pregnant again. Other than this explanation, there was no other way to explain this strange phenomenon. What was going on? Old Grand Madam still felt extremely strange when she recalled it. As for why you are the young matriarch of Three Springs sect, all this can only be clarified by asking your mother. Old Grand Madam's gaze looked towards Yi Qing Luo. After Tianquang found out that you are not his biological daughter, he flew into a rage and wanted to kill you. It was your mother who stopped Tianquang. Your mother and Tianquang talked for 2 whole hours in the study room. In the end, Tianquang let you go and announced to the public that you were the young sect master of the Three Springs sect. Because of this, I have argued with Tianquang for a long time, but Tianquang's attitude was unyielding, so I could only compromise. The old ancestor paused, and a cold and complicated light flashed across her sinister eyes. Seventh girl, your mother is long dead now and Tianquang is also. I don't know what exactly they talked about in the study back then. After the old ancestor finished speaking, the entire garden was silent. No one spoke to break the silence at this moment. They started to look at Yiqing Luo as their eyes were filled with sympathy and pity. The old ancestor said it so clearly and clearly, regardless of whether it was real or fake. To Yiqing Luo this was a heavy blow. Yi Tianquang and Yiqing Luo's mother were already dead. No matter what the truth was, as soon as the old ancestor said those words, Yiqing Luo's identity. She would no longer be the seventh daughter of the Yi family and would no longer be able to have any connection with the Three Springs sect. Moreover, Yiqing Luo's past. It would also smear a stain on her life. Everyone sighed in their hearts. Chapter 2082. Everyone's thoughts were running wild. However, Yiqing Luo was still calm and there was no change in the expression on her face. She stood there lazily. The strong wind around her fluttered her fiery red dress. It made the beautiful woman look even more beautiful than before. After a while, the young lady's long eyelashes moved. Everyone's heart trembled along with him. They were guessing what method Yiqing Luo would use to retaliate. Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her eyes. Her long and narrow eyes were overflowing with color, as though it was decorated with thousands of stars, sparkling brightly. Her footsteps moved. Her figure flashed in front of everyone. Only an afterimage could be seen. Yiqing Luo's figure had appeared on the stage. She stood beside old grandmadam, tilted her head and looked at old grandmadam with a warm smile. "Old grandmadam, are you done? If you are, go to the back and sit down, don't delay the auspicious time of the succession." The entire crowd was silent again. No one had expected this. After experiencing old grandmadam's words to draw a clear line between her and the Yi family, Yiqing Luo was still thinking about the patriarch's succession ceremony. Didn't she understand old grandmadam's intention? Or perhaps she wanted to play dumb and inherit the patriarch's position first? Old grandmadam was stunned. Yiqing Luo's reaction was really out of her expectations. After being stunned for a while, old grandmadam stared at the smiling young lady and said with a steely face, "Seventh girl, Three Springs sect doesn't belong to you, you can't force it." There was a hint of threat in her words. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly, "But old grandmadam, what else do you think you can use to stop me?" Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled, like a cunning fox. Between her brows, there was a teasing smile. "According to old grandmadam's story, since I'm not from the Yi family then, I don't need to respect the Yi family's elders," she said with a smile. "So, I must let the succession ceremony continue. How can old grandmadam stop me?" "You." The elder ancestor's expression turned ugly. "Even if you don't have the blood of the Yi family flowing in your body, you've grown up in the Yi family for the past 15 years. You've called me elder ancestor for 15 years. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows disapprovingly. So what? The girl's actions were clearly very normal. However, for some reason the old ancestor's heart tightened. Instinctively he took a step back. You want to destroy the Three Springs sect? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" Old grandmadam's voice tightened as she stared at Yiqing Luo as she questioned angrily. "I don't have the blood of the Yi clan flowing in my veins, so even if I kill Yi Fengru and you, I won't be struck by lightning, right?" Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she laughed mischievously. She raised her hand and casually flipped her hair. Her every movement was extremely lazy and full of the charm of a young girl. Unbridled and flamboyant, she was like a poppy, making it impossible for anyone to take their eyes off her. Old grandmadam's expression instantly turned gloomy. "Yiqing Luo, today I'm here, don't you dare to snatch away the inheritance rights of Three Springs sect." Her sinister eyes swept towards the direction of her side. A white shadow flashed past. He saw the sect's elders standing in between Yiqing Luo and old grandmadam. Chapter 2083. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and smiled enchantingly. "Did I say that I want to participate in the worship process?" "You." The sect elder choked for a moment and straightened his face. "If you don't participate in the worship process, you can't proceed with the patriarch's succession ceremony. This is the rule set by the Three Springs sect ancestors." Yiqing Luo smiled even brighter. "I didn't say that I won't participate in the worship process." The sect elder's face sunk. "Yiqing Luo, are you toying with this elder?" Yiqing Luo glanced at him disapprovingly, insolently and arrogantly. "Teasing? What do you have that is worth me teasing you?" His blunt words caused the onlookers to roar with laughter. The sect elder's face was filled with gloomy clouds. his hands under his sleeves clenched into fists. It had been 100 years since anyone dared to speak to him in this manner. This young lady dared to be so insolent. Thinking of the supreme aura she released earlier, the sect elder's eyes were covered with a layer of coldness. At the age of 15 she had already stepped into the sky profound realm. She was indeed a rare genius in the world. If this young lady was from the Yi family, as the sect elder of Three Springs sect, he would be deeply gratified. But this young lady was not from the Yi family. This kind of talent would only bring misfortune to the Yi family. If they didn't eliminate the roots, it would bring endless harm to Three Springs sect. The sect elder's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with murderous intent. This murderous intent was fleeting. But Yi Qing Luo still sensed it. Yi Qing Luo sneered in her heart and swept a disdainful glance at the sect elder. If the sect elder wanted to make a move on her, she didn't mind using the sect elder as a practice target. She could tell. This sect elder's profound grade was also in the sky profound realm. His grade was about 3rd or 4th grade. Although after the profound sky realm, the gap between each grade was as wide as the heavens. But Yi Qing Luo felt that since it was a practice target, this difference was just right. But before that, she had to settle the sect leader's succession ceremony first. She walked past the sect elder and walked directly to the altar. Sect elder, please don't waste everyone's time. Everyone here has come from their busy schedules to attend this succession ceremony. As the sect elder of the Three Springs sect, you are disgracing the name of the Three Springs sect by wasting everyone's time. The sect elder was so angry that he strode toward the altar. I've said it before. You're not a descendant of the Three Springs sect. You have no right to inherit the Three Springs sect. He stretched out his hand wanting to stop Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo took a small step back and gave a low laugh. Sect elder, when did I say that I want to inherit Three Springs sect? The sect elder was taken aback. The onlookers were also stunned. It seemed like Yi Qing Luo had indeed never mentioned that she was going to inherit Three Springs sect from the start. However, she had been urging the succession ceremony to continue. Wasn't he going to inherit the Three Springs sect? Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about everyone's dazed gazes. Her hand, facing a certain point in the sky, opened up slightly. The young lady stood against the light. Her beauty was not as arrogant and wanton as before. Instead, there was a kind of extremely gentle warmth. That pair of wanton and devilish charming eyes. At this moment, it was filled with a deep smile. The smile on her red lips was bright and radiant. Such a Yi Qing Luo. It was everyone's first time seeing it. Their hearts were inexplicably agitated. The young lady's fair jade-like hands slipped out from her sleeves. Slender fingers stretched towards the sky. Chapter 2084. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was Yi Qing Luo talking to? Future patriarch? Wasn't she talking to herself? Everyone looked towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand. They saw a dazzling ray on the horizon, adding a gorgeous color to the entire sky. Carrying a majestic and powerful force, it descended from the sky. That was a leopard beast with shiny black fur. The leopard beast's body was extremely sturdy, about 3 to 4 times the size of an ordinary leopard beast. A pair of black eyes, extremely vigilant, with a strong warning color. Dong. The black leopard beast landed on the ground. For huge leopard claws stepped out 4 strong air currents. The dust on the ground stirred up, a hurricane suddenly arose. The sharp claws that stepped on the ground like a sharp blade, shining with a sharp luster. And the most shocking thing was, it was the 2 people sitting on the back of the leopard beast. A man and a woman. When the leopard beast stabilized its footsteps, it proudly swept its eyes around, after confirming that there was no danger. The leopard beast slowly crouched down, lowering its body. 2 figures slowly came down from the leopard beast. The young man was dressed in a navy blue luxurious brocade robe, his black hair neatly tied up, secured by a white jade crown. His figure looked somewhat slender but also tall and slender. Perhaps it was because of this period of experience. Or perhaps it was because of the dignified and noble clothes on him. The young man's entire aura had an earth-shaking change. His aura was fully unleashed, dignified and luxurious. Behind the youth was a young girl dressed as a plain-colored servant girl. Although she was a servant girl. But looking at the pace that followed the young man, steady and powerful. Graceful figure, thousands of postures. No matter how one looked, she was definitely not an ordinary servant girl. Just these two people, the moment they appeared, attracted everyone's attention. Old Eighth. When old Grand Madame saw that young man, a trace of disbelief immediately surfaced on her dark face. She stood up abruptly with the help of her walking stick, her body swaying, extremely shocked. Old Grand Madame. Yi Fengyu cupped his hands, respectfully bowing in the direction of old Grand Madame. Neither servile nor overbearing attitude made old Grand Madame stagger a step back. Lady Biming supported him in time, unable to believe her own eyes. This young man, a young man with such a majestic and powerful aura, was Yi Fengyu, the youngest of the Yi clan. Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu didn't wait for old Grand Madame's reaction as he withdrew his hand and walked straight towards Yi Qingluo. When he saw Yi Qingluo, Yi Fengyu's youthful face finally revealed a smile that resembled that of a child. "Sister," he called out in a daze, his heart full of excitement. Yi Qingluo walked in front of him. A 15-year-old boy was at the age of growth. The current Yi Fengyu was 2/3 taller than Yi Qingluo's head. Yi Qingluo had to raise her head to look at him. "Shall you go ahead?" Yi Qingluo smiled as she caressed Yi Fengyu's head, her eyes filled with warmth. Yi Fengyu nodded vigorously. The young man with a majestic aura in front of everyone just now, the minute he stood in front of Yi Qingluo, he became the little brother next door. Anyone could tell that the relationship between Yi Qingluo and Yi Fengyu was extremely deep. Yi Qingluo put her hands behind her back, tilted her head and looked at the sect elder with a smile that didn't look like a smile. "Sect elder Xiaoyu is the direct bloodline descendant of Three Springs sect. Do you have any objections to let him inherit the position of sect master?" The sect elder had been in closed-door cultivation for such a long time, he didn't know much about the outside world. Listening to Yi Qingluo's words, Chapter 2085. The position of the Three Springs sect's sect leader was not something that could be easily inherited. Who told Yi Qingluo that as long as she was a descendant of the Three Springs sect, she would be able to inherit the position of sovereign? How could an immature child inherit the position of the sect master? The sect elder's face darkened. Of course, even if you have any opinions, it has nothing to do with me." The sect elder had just spat out two words when he was covered by Yi Qingluo's disapproving voice. The voice of the sect elder was stuck in his throat. He couldn't go up or down. His face turned red. Yi Qingluo continued to smile. "Old Grand Madame, do you have anything else to say now?" The old ancestor's eyes were filled with shock as he stared at Yi Fengyu, unable to recover for a long time. She remembered. After Yi Qingqian led the remnants of the dark forces and joined hands with Yi Fengru to invade Three Springs sect. As Yi Qingluo's biological brother who had always been doted on, Yi Qingjian vented her anger on Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu's situation was extremely miserable. She had always thought that Yi Fengyu had died in Yi Qingqian's hands. Unexpectedly, not only did Yi Fengyu not die. On the contrary, he was no longer like a child who couldn't grow up. Instead, he was extremely dignified and capable of shouldering great responsibilities. The old ancestor's heart trembled fiercely. No. I, as an elder of the Three Springs sect, nominate Old Eighth as the new sect leader. The old ancestor stared at Yi Fengyu, his voice trembling. Yi Fengyu was a direct descendant of the Three Springs sect. Yi Qingqian was no longer considered as a member of the Three Springs sect. Yi Fengru, his appearance was neither human nor ghost. He also had the infamy of killing his own father and forcing the abdication of the throne. He had also joined an underworld power. His reputation had long since been ruined. Now, only Yi Fengyu could shoulder this great responsibility. Even if Yi Fengyu wasn't mature enough. As a grandmother, she could still live for a few more years. She could assist Yi Fengyu and help him grow faster. Furthermore, Yi Fengyu had Yi Qingluo as his backing. Yi Qingluo was going to inherit the position of sovereign. The old ancestor couldn't accept it at all. She had been resisting the urge to stop Yi Qingluo. It was because, only by keeping the secret that Yi Qingluo wasn't a member of the Yi family. To make Yi Qinglu the patriarch of Three Springs sect. Only then could the Three Springs sect's reputation be stabilized, and only then could the Three Springs sect return to its rightful status and nobility. In fact, it was just as the Biming clan had said. Yi Qingluo had the ability to lead Three Springs sect to become the leader of the four major sects. Therefore, the elder had been suppressing the unwillingness in his heart. Now, the successor was a member of the Yi family. Furthermore, he could make use of Yi Qing Luo's power and reputation. This was the best of both worlds. How could the old ancestor have any objections? No. I don't agree. The sect elder's face darkened. Had it been too long since he, the sect elder, appeared in the Three Springs sect, causing the current Three Springs sect to be so disrespectful? He felt that his dignity as the leader of a sect had been trampled on by a junior. If he allowed these juniors to be arrogant and decide everything for the Three Springs sect, he would be doomed. Then why would he, as an elder of the sect, come here? The more the sect elder thought about it, the angrier he got. How can you be so perfunctory when it comes to inheriting the patriarch's position? Changing this and that, is it a joke for you to assume the position of Three Springs sect's patriarch? He frowned and shot a sharp glare at old ancestor. We haven't seen each other for decades and you've become muddle-headed? Chapter 2086. The sect elder snorted coldly. The previous patriarch knew that Yi Qing Luo was not a descendant of the Yi family, but still insisted on making her the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. This really makes me doubt if the current Yi family still has the ability to inherit the patriarch position. He paused and stared sharply at old grandmadam. So, I have decided to stay in Three Springs sect for a few months, to investigate carefully, among the remaining descendants of Three Springs sect, who is the most suitable person to become the future patriarch. This. Old grandmadam's face was ashen. She wanted to stop him but didn't know how. Listening to the sect elder. Apparently he had made up his mind. The sect elder flicked his sleeves and said coldly, "There's no need to say anything, I have made up my mind. Today's patriarch succession ceremony shall." Hee. A contemptuous laughter, extremely ethereal and ethereal. That laughter was as clear as pearls falling on a plate, extremely pleasant to the ears. But at the same time it was pleasant to the ears. Bursts of sound rippled in the ears, giving off a strange feeling. Even the sect elder couldn't help but have goosebumps all over his body. Old grandmadam, it actually doesn't matter if there is this sect elder in the patriarch succession ceremony. Yi Qing Luo's voice was arrogant and presumptuous. She slowly walked to the front of Yi Fengyu and looked at the sect elder with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Old grandmadam was stunned and quickly understood the meaning of Yi Qing Luo's words. Wasn't Yi Qing Luo's arrogance a little too much? Even if Yi Qing Luo was already a Sky Profound cultivator. But after all, she had just stepped into Sky Profound first grade not too long ago, and was still not adept at controlling her profound energy. How could she go against the sect elder who had lived for 500 years? She thought that she didn't care about the sect elder's opinion. Could this succession ceremony really ignore the existence of the sect elder? Old grandmadam wanted Yi Fengyu to become the new patriarch. But she didn't dare to disobey the sect elder in front of him, and didn't dare to go against the sect elder back then. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, the grand elder could only remain silent. When the sect elder heard that, he was so infuriated that his white beard stubble puffed up. Yi Qing Luo, since you're not a descendant of Three Springs sect, then Three Springs sect's internal affairs have nothing to do with you. Now get off the stage for this elder. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and looked at him. Someone who hasn't appeared in the past few decades and has never been in charge of Three Springs sect. Do you think you're qualified to say this? As she spoke, she looked at the sect elder with a disdainful smile. In recent years, the Three Springs sect's reputation has been declining. It's not only the imperial family who can easily cause trouble in the Three Springs sect. Even the servants of the other 4 great profound practitioner clans and clans dare to cause trouble in the Three Springs sect. The Three Springs sect had become a joke. Where were you at that time? Yi Qing Luo's voice was very low. There was even a hint of laughter in his voice. When she said the last word, the sound of her voice fell. The entire garden was extremely quiet. The sect elder was also stunned and did not speak for a long time. When he came back to his senses, his face was red with shame and indignation. He couldn't believe that he was provoked by a junior to the point where he couldn't resist at all. His face was ashen as he replied angrily, "The Three Springs sect's reputation has declined. That's because of the previous sect leader's ability and the way he handled things. There's a huge problem. What does all of this have to do with me?" Chapter 2087. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows, her long and narrow eyes rippled with ridicule. But Three Springs sect's reputation has dropped, their status has plummeted, no matter which force it is, they can easily step on us. Her slender fingers touched her chin, her eyes curved. What's the difference between this and Three Springs sect heading towards destruction? The sect elder's face turned gloomy, his fists were clenched. You are talking nonsense. Looking at the past few days, Yi Qingqian led the Dark Forces to invade Three Springs sect, and made Three Springs sect become the assistants of the Dark Forces to invade the West Continent, almost destroying Three Springs sect's illustrious reputation. Yi Qingluo looked at the sect elder smilingly, but at that time, elder? Where were you? You. The sect elder squeezed out a word from between his teeth, but couldn't spit out the next word. The crowd expressed that the amount of information was getting more and more explosive. Everyone looked at the sect elder with despise and disdain. In the past, the sect elder didn't appear anywhere. He carried the Three Springs sect's glory, and was a rare sky mystic overlord in Nirvana realm. No matter where he went, he would be envied and respected by everyone. Since when did people look at him with disdain and disdain? The sect elder bellowed, Yi Qingluo, you are an outsider, what right do you have to judge me? Based on the fact that Three Springs sect was revived in my hands. Yi Qingluo replied arrogantly. Sharp arrogance was released from Yi Qingluo's body without any concealment. The powerful and majestic aura overshadowed the sect elder's aura with absolute suppression. Yi Qingluo raised her head, her brows were filled with a lazy expression, but in her eyes, there was a gleam of brilliance, overflowing with youth. Sect elder, when Three Springs sect was in dire straits, you never appeared. To me it really doesn't matter whether Three Springs sect has a sect elder or not. Yi Qingluo didn't give any face to the sect elder. The young lady's devastatingly beautiful face was calm without any ripples. The long and narrow eyes were supposed to be enchanting and charming. However, the girl's aura was so cold and piercingly cold. The sect elder staggered a few steps back. His pair of flustered eyes stared at Yi Qingluo in disbelief. He was so angry that he was trembling all over. His face was as black as charcoal. Yi Qingluo, you've become a sky mystic overlord at such a young age and you think you're so great that you can be lawless? The sect elder knew that there was no chance of winning if he were to bicker with this young lady. He sneered and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. I must teach you a lesson on behalf of the Yi family, you silly little girl who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yi Qingluo spat out a pooey. Was there a hole in the head of this sect elder? She kept saying that she was not a descendant of the Three Springs sect and had no right to interfere with the internal affairs of the Three Springs sect. And now he was saying that he would teach her a lesson on behalf of the Yi clan? Didn't he find these words contradictory? Not waiting for Yi Qingluo to complain in her heart. The sect elder's attack had already arrived. Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased as she speedily retreated backwards, avoiding his attack. Chapter 2088. Tisk, so this is the so-called sect elder. I've learned something new today. After living for hundreds of years, he's only in the sky profound stage. Our boss Qingluo had only cultivated for a few months and she's already in the sky profound stage. No wonder this old man is jealous of our boss Qingluo. Relying on the fact that he's lived for hundreds of years, to bully a junior who had just started cultivating, this is the style of a sect elder. All sorts of ridicule were heard from the surroundings. The representatives from various powerhouses shook their heads in disgust. To the sect elder, what kind of humiliation was this? The second wave of attack which was launched towards Yi Qingluo was completely frozen. There was no way for them to continue. However, among the crowd there was another wave of voices. What the sect elder said isn't without reason. Since Yi Qingluo is not the descendant of Three Springs sect, then she has no right to ask about Three Springs sect's matters. Who knows who the new patriarch of Three Springs sect is? It's not Yi 7th Mrs. A wrong it should be Yi Qingluo, and it's not her turn to make the decision. Who knows Yi Qingluo and Yi family's 8th young master's close relationship? If Yi family's 8th young master becomes Three Springs sect's patriarch, it's no different from Yi Qingluo becoming Three Springs sect's patriarch. The scene instantly became extremely chaotic. Due to the crowd's gossip, the sect elder could only swallow his anger. He had never expected this. The representatives who had always been fighting in the open and in the dark, contending for supremacy, they actually worked together for Yi Qingluo? Yi Qingluo totally didn't care about the outside world's discussions. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Yi Fengyu's wrist, pulling him to the front of the altar. Little you worship the heavens. Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste time with those people. The most important thing now was to let Yi Fengyu finish the inheritance ceremony and return to the Mu family to recuperate. Yi Fengyu's injuries had not fully recovered. He needed at least another half a month to recuperate. This was the best outcome after Ghost Doctor had treated Yi Fengyu's injuries. Xiao Qin did not know how long Yi Fengyu's willpower could hold out during the succession ceremony. Presumptuous. What right do you have to preside over the ceremony? The sect elder gnashed his teeth and roared. Off to the side, Yi Fengru furiously roared, "Bastard! Yi Qing Luo, you're just a slut. You're exactly the same as that shameless mother of yours, little bastards born of cheap mothers. Don't even think about making Yi Fengyu the sect leader of the Three Springs sect. I will never agree." Suddenly he leaped up. It turned into a black afterimage, stirring up waves of air that surged in the air. In the air, Yi Qing Luo could vaguely smell a strange smell. Her expression changed and she quickly took out 2 pills from her fingertips. One of them slipped into Yi Fengyu's mouth. One of them slipped into Shiju's mouth. At the same time, the onlookers suddenly fell down one by one. The air was gradually covered with a layer of black smoke. Poison. He poisoned us. The onlookers reacted and immediately covered their mouths and noses. However, no matter how hard they tried not to breathe, the feeling of powerlessness from being poisoned would still corrode their entire bodies. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, everyone present were either sprawled on the ground or on their seats. The only people who were standing were Yi Qing Luo and Yi Fengyu, who had unknowingly sat on Shiju's back and leapt into mid-air. "Bastard! Today you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." Yi Fengru laughed maniacally. In his hand was a black bottle. Chapter 2089. Yi Qing Luo frowned. Yi Fengru's other identity was a dark medicine master. She knew that Yi Fengru would definitely take the opportunity to poison her and win. But Yi Qing Luo didn't expect him to use such a sinister method. The target of the poison was not her. It was everyone present. "Sister." Yi Fengyu was on the back of Shi Yan, calling out to her worriedly. Yi Qing Luo had only fed him 2 antidote pills. He didn't see Yi Qing Luo swallowing the pills. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. "Xiaoyu, wait a while more, the inheritance ceremony will continue soon." "Sister." Yi Fengyu's heart was shaken. At this time, Yi Qing Luo was still thinking about his inheritance ceremony. She was obviously not his biological sister. Why, after knowing everything, would she still treat him so well without any hesitation? He looked at the tall platform, at the slender figure that was bursting with boundless power. He secretly swore in his heart. He must become stronger. He must make Three Springs sect the #1 sect. He wanted his sister to have a home of her own no matter what happened. Three Springs sect would always be his sister's backing. Yi Qing Luo didn't talk to Yi Fengyu anymore. She narrowed her eyes and glanced around. Xiao Qin had already analyzed the composition of the black smoke in the air in his mind after refining it 100 times. After confirming that these fainted people were not in danger, Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. These people were the representatives of the major forces in the West Continent. If they all died in Three Springs sect, no matter what the reason was or who killed them, it would all be related to Three Springs sect. Moreover, so many people from the major forces had died in Three Springs sect. Another storm was about to be set off in the West Continent. Xiaoyu was about to take over Three Springs sect. Yi Qing Luo couldn't let so many people die in Three Springs sect before it was in Xiaoyu's hands. Her gaze finally fell on the complacent Yi Fengru, who was laughing maniacally. Meeting Yi Qing Luo's gaze, Yi Fengru laughed wildly. "Bastard, you want to kill me? Just come at me. As long as you dare to touch me, I will let these people all die in Three Springs sect." Ha! Yi Fengru naturally understood the consequences of these people dying in the Three Springs sect. This was the reason why he didn't choose the highly toxic powder immediately, causing everyone present to lose their lives. He wanted to make use of these people. Threatening Yi Qing Luo. He wanted to see Yi Qing Luo kneeling in front of him begging for mercy. He wanted to see Yi Qing Luo in a disheveled state, suffering from humiliation. Yi Qing Luo glanced at him coldly as she smiled, her expression calm. "Really? Are you trying to compete with me in speed? So, do you think it's faster for me to kill you or for you to poison these people?" Yi Fengru's face paled. He stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo. However, a red shadow flashed before his eyes. Before he could even react, He suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. A burst of profound energy slapped onto his chest. He moved his fingers and quickly tried to open the other bottle. But before he could do anything, Yiqing Luo's fingers had already grabbed onto his wrist. With several cracking sounds, Yi Fengru let out a pained scream. His entire face was contorted in pain. "You deserve to die, do you know that?" Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. Under that charming smile, bit by bit, she broke Yi Fengru's hand. The bottle in his hand fell into Yiqing Luo's hand. Chapter 2090. Yi Fengru was horrified. But he didn't even have the strength to struggle. He could tell that Yiqing Luo hadn't released her full strength. But even if she didn't use her full strength, she did the same to him. He didn't even have the strength to resist. How strong was this slut? Yi Fengru couldn't figure it out. Although Yiqing Luo's mother was also a cultivator, but she was just a weak girl who only knew how to rely on Yi Tianquang. How could she give birth to such a pervert like Yiqing Luo? Pa! The crisp sound of a slap resounded through the quiet garden. Yiqing Luo's slap landed on Yi Fengru's face. Her expression was cold, her charming eyes were suffused with a trace of coldness. "Yi Fengru, if you insult my mother again, I will give you a slap or give you a punch." In the end, she added another sentence, "Curse in your heart, I will still hit you." Yi Fengru's face was swollen, blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. He stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, his eyes filled with hatred. She could hear him cursing in his heart? "I can't hear you, but from your appearance it seems like you are cursing me, cursing my mother, so I will hit you." Yiqing Luo smiled, completely unreasonable. Immediately, she raised her hand and slapped the other side of his face. "I think you are cursing me in your heart again." *CK. Yi Fengru's ears were ringing from the slap, his cheeks were burning with pain. He cursed through gritted teeth. Yiqing Luo raised her brows, smiling. But her slender little hand, clenched into a fist, unceremoniously punched his stomach fiercely. Yi Fengru screamed, only feeling that his abdomen was pierced through, his internal organs seemed to be ruptured. His whole body fell straight to the ground. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and looked at him with a sneer. "Didn't you think you can be arrogant after poisoning me? Come on, continue to be arrogant for me to see?" Yi Fengru had no strength to move. Both his hands were broken by Yiqing Luo. Under Yiqing Luo's earlier punch, the slightest movement of her internal organs would cause a heart-wrenching pain. He couldn't move. He didn't dare to move. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he forced his eyes open. He had lost too much blood and the pain was unbearable. He could no longer see the scene in front of him clearly. In his haze, he could only see the red-clothed girl standing in front of him. Her eyes were filled with mockery as she stared at him unblinkingly. All of a sudden, Yi Fengru felt as if something was tugging at his heart. It looked like it was trying to grab onto something. But in the next instant, his vision went black. Something surged in his mind. When his eyes regained clarity, once again, another slender and delicate figure appeared in front of him. This was Qianqian. Yi Fengru's cloudy eyes gradually emitted a black stream of air. His lips trembled slightly. He kept repeating the word, Qianqian. He saw Zi Qianqian. He saw Zi Qianqian's tragic death. He saw Yiqing Luo standing beside Zi Qianqian who was being devoured by the poisonous worms, laughing out loud and wantonly. The black energy in his eyes grew thicker. The malevolent expression on his face became more and more twisted and terrifying. "Yiqing Luo, don't be complacent too early. This time round, the winner is still uncertain." Yi Fengru didn't know where the strength came from, but he suddenly slammed his palm on the ground. His body was like an arrow leaving the bow, scurrying into mid-air. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, a few deafening energy fluctuations were heard, enveloping the entire garden. Chapter 2091. Gravel splattered and dust billowed. The various powerhouses' representatives who had fallen onto the ground due to being poisoned were covered with tiny wounds after being splattered by those gravel. Some of the stronger powerhouses' representatives regained their consciousness under this kind of piercing pain. They wanted to avoid it, but the feeling of powerlessness made them unable to move at all. "So it's like this." The young lady's clear voice, which seemed to be in deep thoughts, was transmitted into everyone's ears. The various powerhouses' representatives mustered up their last breath and looked towards the direction of the voice. under the encirclement of gravel and dust. They saw a young lady dressed in red, still standing on the high stage, raising her head and looking towards a certain direction in the sky. It was Yiqing Luo? It was her. She was fine. She wasn't poisoned like them. Everyone's hearts inexplicably calmed down. As long as Yiqing Luo was still around, they would definitely be fine. Not knowing why, the other party was obviously a 15-year-old young lady, but they had developed such a strong reliance on this 15-year-old young lady. Swish, 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 accompanied by gravel splattering, the sound of the ground shaking. They saw the surroundings of the garden, which had been leveled to the ground, as cultivators dressed in black night clothing scuttled out. One after another, there were at least 100 over people, surrounding the high stage which Yiqing Luo was standing on, tightly encircled. And those 30 to 40 people who had originally fallen onto the ground also climbed up. They laughed maniacally as they walked behind Yi Fengru, as they stared at Yiqing Luo viciously, as though they were looking at the meat on the chopping board. Yiqing Luo recognized these people at one glance. Weren't they the bunch who kept singing a different tune to the crowd, trying to incite the crowd's rhythm, and kept humiliating Yiqing Luo? Yi Fengru laughed loudly, and as he laughed he coughed violently. Even after coughing out blood, he still couldn't stop laughing. Yiqing Luo, did you really think that I didn't have any tricks up my sleeves? So what if they are sky mystic overlords? Against them, can you still survive? Yiqing Luo didn't respond to Yi Fengru's words. She narrowed her eyes as she carefully sized up the rows of black-robed men in front of her, who were obviously well-trained. This sizing up made Yiqing Luo had a huge shock. These killers, over 100 of them, were all Earth Mystic grade and above. The highest profound rank has already reached the 8th level of the Earth profound rank. Where did these experts come from? Yiqing Luo had long guessed that it was impossible for Yi Fengru to come to the succession ceremony alone. The group of murderous killers who were constantly singing a different tune were Yi Fengru's men. But what Yiqing Luo did not expect was, apart from the group of assassins in the field, and there were so many teams with such powerful strength, it was impossible for Yi Fengru to find so many powerful helpers. Behind him, someone must be helping him. Or perhaps, it was exploitation. Profound practitioners of the Earth Profound Realm. In the Nirvana Realm, he could be said to be the target of all the major forces and clans. That person was able to train so many Earth Shen practitioners into such a well-trained team. From this, it could be seen that the strength of that person could not be underestimated. Yiqing Luo vigilantly searched for the leader among the 100 of them. However, he swept his gaze across everyone. He didn't see anyone who looked like the boss. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.